Hey, how's it going, everybody? I am Kyle from Fantasy Forge Studios, and we are here with some Adventures in Middle-earth, a D&D 5e campaign set in the years between the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, taking place in Middle-earth. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right in and introduce all of our players, starting with Valinith.
Hey guys, my name is Dain, or Forge here at Fantasy Forge Studios. I play the character Valinith, son of Morbith, High Elf of Rivendell. He is a scholar. He specializes in the healing, and he is mentally and physically distraught after last session. But we'll see how things go from here.
I like it. And next, we have Theodric.
Hey everybody, I'm that Toby Australian. I play Theodric Grimborn, our young rider of Rohan. He is our slayer and the baby of the group. He is currently dealing with a lot of emotions. He's kind of a little shut down and closed off right now. But he knows he can lean on his friends and hopefully soon he'll be back to normal.
Yes. And he might need to lean on them for a little bit, considering he only has 6 HP. So, that's fun. And next, we have Dead.
Exactly. Hello everyone, I'm SpiderFan33 in the chat. Today I will be playing the Ghost of Christmas Future. I'm just here for the vibes, honestly.
Exactly. Vibes, and hopefully everyone could hear him, like what happened during last stream with the natural 16 for the...
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I
So
still have
the
that.
vibes
Don't-
are that
don't-
strong.
Oh, wait,
Currently
yeah,
just
I'm
the
not
most
using it.
involved viewer of the stream, pretty much.
It's so crazy. I'm such a dedicated audience member. I'm like almost part of the stream.
You've
So, like,
manifested
not quite
yourself on screen.
Exactly. It happened. I put the vibes out.
I love it. I love it. But yes, and so hopefully we can get you in here ASAP to this stream. So it'll be good. So hang around with us, keep paying attention, because who knows, at a moment's notice, your new character might just jump right in. And
While Tad appears on screen.
Exactly.
Pokemon music when you find like a new, when you're walking in the long grass.
Exactly.
I was thinking about it.
Pokemon!
I was thinking about it, and do you guys know like the kids' books, Captain Underpants?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
every
absolutely.
time I think of Tad, I hear a tra la la. Just kind of jumping
Oh,
into the
that's
screen.
so him though.
Yeah, that's
That
that's
is
Please,
Tad.
no.
That's
Please.
so
Are you saying it's
Tad.
Tad? Come on now.
I-
Don't say it.
I'm not saying it's not Tad.
Like a Kyle goes tra la la.
Oh, Lord.
Or it could just be Mirkwood messing with you. That's also a possibility.
It could be. What better method of torture could the Merc
That's
use?
Baldur. He's still gone crazy by the water. He's just going to become Captain Underpants in the Mirkwood.
He
I
just
can see that.
he wakes up and he's just like, clothes? I don't need clothes. I just need these. He's in his briefs. It's too funny.
Oh man.
And finally,
Listen,
we have
unironically. Yeah,
our
okay, sorry.
last character, Feanor.
Feanor is a Mirkwood elf, currently rocking it, totally not emotionally distraught. Just plotting how to kill someone in the long
Wonder
run,
who.
because he can't do it currently, and he's very
Okay.
tactically minded, and he wants to get vengeance. I guess at this
Feanor-
point, it's just straight up revenge. Hopefully, he develops in a way where he is not so driven by that, but he is young, at least by the standards of an elf. So let's
Valinith's
see
impressed.
if Valinith's teachings can make their way through to this young one.
I will say, Valinith is slightly impressed that you're holding through this, 'cause
Yeah.
knowing your character.
Look, the
You
only
two
reason
don't
I
even
haven't
know the
already
full
physically
story
attacked
of what
him.
happened though, okay?
No.
No, just because Feanor didn't like the guy, he was going to headbutt him in the face when they first met.
Oh, okay.
Um,
You know what? That's
let's-
perfectly fair.
Let's be honest.
Like Theodric
Yeah.
headbutts orcs in his dreams.
It's true.
But yes, so we're going to see how that develops, and Feanor's looking for a direction to go in.
Wonderful.
Now, unlike the others in our party, he does not have a set mission that he's doing. He's here for the ride.
Love it. You guys are all great. I so look forward to this next session to see how everything pans out. But I am Kyle. I am the lore master, dungeon master, whatever you want to call me. I play with and against the characters, and in some cases, killing characters, I guess. But also, in other cases, hopefully helping to serve as fate to be able to help them and proceed along the journey. I also serve as narrator of this journey, so it should be really fun. Of course, this is set in the world of Middle Earth, and so you all might find some familiarity with this world as if you are familiar with it in any ways. But let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of recap of what previously happened. If this is the first episode you're watching, proceed with caution. I'm not going to deter you to not watch, but I guess it's already been revealed. Jalen's dead. And a lot of stuff happened. Last session was a very emotional stream. I went back and rewatched it, and I was just like, and yeah, my heart. It's like when you're in the moment, it's like, okay, I'm doing everything to stay in character, but then like when you're like just sitting back and watching, it's just like, my heart. Okay.
Yeah, it was rough.
It's freaking rough. Even for me.
It was good though.
It's so good.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Oh,
So good.
Look,
So good.
look, we got rid of Jalen. Now there's time for another female cast member, Corinthial.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
Yeah. We can't have more than 2 females on the screen at the same time, because otherwise it wouldn't be true to the
Wait.
no, come on.
Are you
the
telling
world
me?
of Tolkien, okay?
Are you telling me
It happens
that,
once. At least
that
in the movies.
Jalen is gone and
I'm just
Corinthial's the new character spider?
I'm just saying that
Nope.
Tolkien would not
It's my
pass the Bechdel test. That's it.
He also lived in the turn of the century, so it's all good.
Yeah.
So
It was a tough time.
Tough time. Yes.
that will do that to you when you've lived through World War One and you served there, right?
Also, I will, in response to that question, I will neither confirm nor deny anything.
All right. We'll find out, I guess.
Yes, we have sitting in with us today Switzerland. So, and with that, we are going to go ahead and jump right in. So, last session, this merry band of adventurers being captured by Maeglin and the Wayward Elves, really started to get a taste of what they were in store, being held captive by these elves who have essential dreams of elven superiority and elven kingship and rule, servitude for all mortals, basically. And they are currently in a state of not only being captured, but serving under the whims to help this plan come into reality for the Lord of the Wayward Elves, Maeglin. They were saved from spiders a few sessions ago as they were dragging Baldor's near lifeless body back through the woods, and one thing led to another, and interrogations happened, and which brought an end to Jalen, the warden of the Brelins, as she sacrificed herself in protection of Belko. And with that being the case, last session was a bunch of people finding out what actually happened. Dreams were had, duels were had as well. Theodric facing off against Maeglin, and realizing, wow, they're in for a doozy, the party. And so they also met Corinthial. So Corinthial, Feanor's long lost friend of 5 years ago. This is the first time that they have been reunited, and she is actually serving as the healer in this band of wayward elves, and she had currently been working on healing Baldor, the wounds of the entire party, but especially Theodric, and also Rufus, who Rufus and Baldor did pull through. Baldor, though, last the party saw, was still recovering in deep recovery. And so the group were allowed to go into the Mirkwood to find a spot to bury Jalen, to which a beautiful funeral sequence ended up happening. Wonderful words were sent, and eventually this allowed Jalen to move on and allow her character to pass. Which is exactly where we're going to go ahead and start off our session today. As the party makes their way back through the Mirkwood to the campsite, as everything is getting packed up to leave, they break through the tree line after a few moments spent in silence. And surprisingly, you each notice that the elves that are there guarding kind of the perimeter around this burial site are exceedingly patient with you. They're not rushing you in any way. They are standing around waiting for you to say your goodbyes. And once you all finally have had, the time, a moment or two to be able to truly say goodbye, you begin making your way back through the Mirkwood and arriving back at the campsite, to which you are immediately greeted by the entire caravan being picked up. The tents that were originally there have all been packed up. The one that Magellan was in, including all of the furniture items, and the tent that was serving as a medical tent as well. You notice that Baldur himself, completely been stripped of all the webs and now into his previous clothes, now lies at the back of the caravan wagon, the one that you had originally come with, and sitting at his side is Corinthial, taking care of him. You are greeted by a number of elves, and this is the first time that each of you really see kind of the magnitude of the number of elves you're dealing with, including the 6 elves that escorted you out. There are a number of elves totaling about 30 that are within this company, and all of them seem to be having tasks that they are doing, but currently they are all in a meeting with separate people who look to be division leaders of this group. And so, with that being the case, you arrive and you are led over to the caravan, to which 2 of the ponies have been strapped up in order to begin moving, while the other one has been loaded with a number of goods. Baradarok has also been set. Basically, his saddle has been taken off and saddle bags have been placed over the top of him. He is being used as a caravan horse as well. And you arrive to... just everyone ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it over to you guys.
Yeah, Valinith, he had already made like a previous, started making his way earlier. So he sees that everyone is all packed up and stuff, and he just gets in the back of the cart and starts looking over after Baldur with Corinthial, and he'll also try to see if he can keep an eye out and see if he can find Belgo. Look around to see if he can find Belgo.
So Belgo is right at the side of Magellan. He no longer has chains or any kind of binds on him in any way, and neither of you do at this point. You've all been completely set free from any kind of chains or anything that has bound you. But you do see him. He's standing, and his eyes completely puffy and red from just crying. He is currently not in a state of tears, but he does look afraid as he sees you approach. His eyes glimmer with a little bit of hope as well. But he doesn't say a word to you as you all arrive.
Cool.
So that's
Yes.
I think they're probably going to try and keep us away from each other for a while.
I mean,
think
yeah, that probably makes sense.
from what Magellan's already said, he's pairing me off with one of his soldiers. Theodric, I doubt you're really very much going to get the run of the place. You're not looking too good at the moment. Sorry to wend it out. And Valinith, you seem to be of great importance. So let's make a promise. No matter what happens, we'll all get back to each other.
Okay,
Yeah?
we all stay
Valinith.
alive.
Valinith nods and he says, "That was the whole point. That was the whole goal. Let's make it out of here alive, at the very least, to carry Jalen's legacy through this."
She may be gone, but she'll always be with us. And I'm gonna drape my arms around, not quite their shoulders because I'm not tall enough, but I'm gonna give them both a kind of a hug as I'm walking along in between them.
And again, the elves that are at your rear guard, they don't seem to do anything as far as get in the way. They're not treating you ruthlessly, as maybe you would assume that they would under the leadership of Megalyn. But you do approach, and actually, as Valinith, you mentioned the name Jalen. You see that Rufus is actually down on the ground at the feet, and his head perks up a little bit, and he tilts, and he very kind of slowly hobbles over to you. You can tell his wounds are pretty grievous, but he is healing to a degree and is on the mend. Each step looks painful to him as he approaches, and he sniffs. You all stop, and he sniffs kind of your feet, and eventually puts his his nose in your hands. The typical sign that he wants a treat, but he doesn't seem to be lingering there. He's almost sensing, you could tell he's trying to pick up a scent that is on each of you. I'm going to have each of you make insight checks for me.
But we know what it is.
I think it's clear what's happening.
Yeah.
God, I did not anticipate this.
I got a
God.
16.
Oh, I thought I was through the worst of
I
these
got an
now.
8.
I got a 7. You're rubbing off on me, Theodric. I haven't rolled above a 10 in like the last 15 rolls.
It's relatively clear, especially to Feanor. As you basically kneel down to pet Rufus, you can tell that he is in pretty rough shape. He's been stitched up. He's been given medications and ointments on his wounds, but he almost kind of looks past you. Valinith, you just think he wants a treat at this point. And Theodric, you have suspicions that this dog, while seemingly not paying too much attention to the orders of his previous master, is in longing for Jalen. And so he sniffs you all, and he looks back towards the woods and back to you, and like kind of circles you a little bit, and begins kind of walking away towards the woods, but like stops and like kind of like looks back and forth, and eventually does come back over, tail between his legs, and he lays down actually at the feet of Feanor, and he begins panting. That clearly this effort of his movement has left him in pain. And emotional.
I'm gonna. He's rather big, but I think. Is there a way that I'd be able to, like, he's pretty badly injured. If I picked him up, would it like hurt him?
Maybe slightly, but he is very skinny and very scrawny. So by doing so, he's not that heavy. He's not overbearing. So I think you could easily do that with some care without even making any checks.
Oh. Yeah, with the cape I've got, I kind of like, lay it down, kind of pick him up, put it on it, and then like kind of almost scoop it up so he's in like a bundle, and then just kind of like carrying that like over my shoulder, so his little head can pop up over my shoulder as I'm walking along.
And yeah, he just lays there relatively limp. His tail still kind of between his legs, but you could tell every now and then there's a small waggle. But his eyes just continuously gaze at the forest entrance where you had just come through. You make
He's even worse smelling up close. But a loyal.
You make your way over to the caravan, and Megalyn immediately greets you and says, you've returned, and in a relatively timely manner. Is the deed done?
Yes, our friend has been put to rest. And I'm sure it's maybe not the place that she wanted to stay. At least this part should hopefully stay safe.
Indeed. It's never a shining day when you have to put a loyal friend to rest. And you could tell, like, as he says this, like he's contemplating something, almost like he briefly relives a moment. And then he brings himself to it. Well, and with that, today marks the beginning of a new chapter in our journey through the heart of Mirkwood. Well, I have given you the time to say your goodbyes to your companion, and Belgo immediately, he kind of like steps in and is like, wait, what? And he kind of stares like back and forth and says, what do you mean goodbyes? I didn't get to say goodbye. and Magellan puts his hand on Belgo's head, firmly, but not in a way that injures him. You were much valued back here helping us load the cargo. Plus, you had an entire night to say goodbyes to your friend. She knows. She knows. A weird, kind of drawn out, somewhat tender moment, but like still very cold. He kind of continues on with what he was saying. Well, now, your challenge, each and every one of you, is to prove yourselves amongst my company. I will assign each of you a crucial role to our company, and it is imperative that we execute these tasks with efficiency. Valinith, he looks at you. Your skills as a healer are of utmost importance to our cause. You will assist Caranthiel in tending to the wounded and ensuring our well-being on the path ahead. Your potential as a secondary healer in my new kingdom can only be realized through your dedication and loyalty to our cause. Remember that the trust you seek is earned, not given freely. And he looks over to you, Feanor. And Feanor, your abilities in hunting and navigating through the treacherous terrain of Mirkwood will be put to the test. Being an elf of Mirkwood, I expect that you know the paths of the wood, and can even eventually serve as an important role in leading the forces of Northmen at my command through the forest undetected against Thranduil. I expect you to prove your worth as you serve under Nornir. And he points over to an elf that is actually completely cloaked. So you were able to catch a glimpse of his face earlier, but he has a hood over his head now, and basically a cloth on his face. So you can only see that there's these piercing eyes that are looking out to you. Yes, you shall serve under Nornir, the captain of our scouts. Your mettle will be judged by your actions and loyalty to our cause. Well, as for the mortals, and he looks to the rest of you in the company, your duties will be that fits your status in my new kingdom. And as such, your primary concern is to serve us. Theodric, and he looks at you, like his eyes kind of narrow as he sees that he looks at your wounds, and he kind of smirks a little bit. Theodric, you are responsible for safeguarding our supplies and the welfare of the animals. Your vigilance is essential as we traverse this dark and unforgiving forest. I'm sure you have noticed that there's a darkness in these trees. And then he continues. I trust you to keep a watchful eye on any potential threats that may arise during the journey as we proceed westward. Additionally, you are not to mount your horse under any circumstance. If you do, your companions will pay for the consequences. Belgo and Baldur actually, this is the first time that you notice that Baldur's eyes have barely opened. You can tell he's not taking anything in at the moment. He's still kind of in a state of pseudo-paralysis, as it were. Belgo and Baldur, once your father has recovered from his wounds and under the care of both Valinith and Caranthiel, he should, hopefully, in no time. Well, the two of you shall work as my servants, attending to the needs of the elves in my company, as it is clear that neither of you hold any muster in a fight. And he kind of laughs to himself. Well, let's just say your pitiful existence shall be spent in menial labor, and your every move will be scrutinized for the slightest mistake. Your conduct will reflect upon your party as a whole, and I expect nothing short of excellence. Now, in the meantime, all of you are to continue your caravan along the elf path, where you will be watched by my company within the trees, marching alongside you through the wood. We will additionally station a front and rear guard, in addition to a guard who will sit in the caravan to dissuade you from taking anything that you shouldn't. We shall move with haste, only pausing to rest and procure food when necessary. It is during these breaks that each of you shall carry out your designated roles, providing your worth to me and to the cause we fight for. Know that I am a reasonable elf. And he pauses and he looks at you. But do not mistake my kindness for weakness. I expect absolute obedience and respect from every member of the company, and that includes the group of you. We dare to play a critical role in the fate of Mirkwood, and I will not tolerate any attempt to undermine our cause. The forced march will be challenging, testing your endurance and guile, proving your worth to our cause. But it is through these trials that perhaps we shall bond as a cohesive force. And he looks at all of you, a little kind of glimmer of hope in his eyes, proving your loyalty to me and to the future we seek. We must earn each other's trust, for only then can we build a kingdom of strength and unity together. Our destiny is within the far east. Our destination is within the far east upper vales, the regrouping point with the forces of the northern men at the western border of Mirkwood. Once the caravan clears the forest gate, we shall head north for a 2-day journey to reach our allies. The stakes are high, and the outcome of our journey will shape the course of history. Let it be known that we travel not just for the glory of our cause, but for the unity of our people. Together we shall prove that the elves stand superior, unyielding in the face of adversity. This journey which we are about to embark upon shall be filled with hardships, but our resolve shall not waver. Remember your places. Your lives are now mine to command, and your survival depends on your obedience. Do not forget the consequences of failure or defiance. I trust each one of you to fulfill your roles with the utmost dedication and to prove your worth as we march towards our rendezvous location. We shall emerge victorious, a united force that will usher in a new era for our people. Now, as you were, and he points each of you to basically the original locations that you were before moving forward. A number of elves, actually led by Magellan, retreat quickly into the beneath the trees in the northern part of the elf path, and just as many retreat into the southern path. And this one is led by Nornir into the southern path, end of the path. And there are 3 that remain with you. Inside the caravan, there is Caranthiel. And then the other 2, the one that's going to serve as the front guard and the one that serves as the rear guard, these ones are actually familiar to Valinith and Feanor, as these are the guards that kept basically watch on you outside the tent while the 2 of you were held captive. And with that, you begin your journey, walking, again, a continuous pace, but you, instead of the saunter that you originally were making, you could tell that the pace is pushed, set by the elf in front and the elf behind. You cannot see nor hear the presence of elves on either side of the elf path, but you know that just beyond the depths that there are a host of elves with bows at the ready if you do not continue your march. And with that, you continue on. One of you is going to have to serve as the one who is guiding the ponies, basically sitting on the cart and leading that way. Is there anyone that will volunteer to do that?
That sounds like my job anyway.
Okay.
So I guess that's what I'm gonna do.
So you climb up onto the cart and you sit on the bench. And this is the first time that you've actually taken these reins, but you have a general idea, especially with your background with horses, not so much ponies, but with horses. And so you give a little a smack of the reins, and the horses and the ponies begin moving. Baradarok at your side, you can see in his eyes bewilderment, but also you hint a sense of relief. As you look upon him, I'm going to have you make a investigation check for me.
Valinith is also going to try to perceive if he can see anything familiar that could potentially be his or other things in the process.
Did you say? sorry, investigation or insight?
Investigation.
Okay, 6.
A 6. You look and immediately, well, you see that the saddle has been removed from his back in place of saddle bags, but you see that there doesn't seem to be any physical harm from your immediate notice, but you do see that Baradorok is in some kind of distress as well, as he kind of keeps pace alongside the caravan, basically leaving your sight. He's his reins are tied to the side of the caravan as well. Valinith, I'm gonna have you make an investigation check for me. Perception.
In particularly, he's looking for his backpack with his journal. But he's looking for anything that seems familiar. That's a 22.
22. Yeah, so you notice that this cart has been loaded with a bunch of new gear, actually. As mentioned before, last episode, Theodric noticed that there was a lot of new provisions that have been placed in that don't seem to match. It looks like these seem to have been like raided from other parties, people that they've encountered. But from what you could tell, there's no other people that are in this caravan that you currently are in. And so these basically baggage, this baggage is added to the supply. And these are actually on top of your stuff. You do see that kind of buried beneath some of this new stuff, you do see glimmers of your gears to a degree.
Okay. Is Maeglin still there? Currently?
No, Maeglin has made his way into the north, and basically sitting beside you is Caranthiel.
Caranthiel, okay. So Valinith actually turns over to Caranthiel. I'm assuming Baldor's still in the cart as well.
Yeah, so he's at the both of your feet. You're facing backwards as you see this rear guard is keeping stoic eyes on you.
Valinith turns to her in sadness in his eyes, but he tries to do his best to stay as chipper as possible. He's like, well, here we are, Caranthiel. It seems we'll be working together.
She breathes and kind of just like sighs a little bit. She looks at Baldur, she looks at you. Well, that would seem so. And she looks kind of like nervously, but continuously her eyes keep going down to Baldur.
How's he doing, by the way? He was my patient before, and unfortunately I haven't actually had the opportunity to look at him. Do you mind if I take a look?
With all means, see if you can do anything to expedite his recovery. Fortunately, I was able to, put an antidote to the paralysis, and he'll be regaining his senses within a few days. But in that time, he'll start to regain consciousness, and he'll come to, but I do fear if we don't do constant checkups with him and, therapy, he might be partially paralyzed for the remainder of his days. He took a large amount of venom.
I can see that, actually. And Valinith holds his tongue. He was about to say something, but knowing that there are eyes and ears on him, he wasn't going to. He was going to recall the time when he was in the woodland halls and he was treating all the patients there who had a bunch of spider bites, but he's keeping that to himself. He's like, in my time, and I haven't experienced too much, I actually have seen some of these bites from these spiders, but it also makes me wonder if some of this has to do with that stream. In fact, it wasn't, I don't know it too much, but I do know that it has a powerful effect on anyone who drinks from it or anyone who gets bathed in it. Is there any effects lingering from there? And Valinith looks on him and attempts to check in on him as best as he can to try to do something.
As you're doing that, make a medicines check for me. But you mentioned this as you cross over the stream, and so the do as the caravan makes its way over. The pony's hooves are bathed in it, and it doesn't seem to take any kind of magical effects upon the ponies or any feet that trod through it, including Feanor. You don't sense any kind of elemental or magical presence coming from this.
If I remember correctly, when we were in the tent, we did deduce that they laced the water. Some of the enchanted waters.
Yeah. So I was wondering if there was any lasting effects. But that was a 25 for my medicine check. So,
from what you can tell, you have no idea the effects of elf magic and if it will have lasting effects. But Caranthiel, she says, well, this, unfortunately, I'm ashamed to say that it is a concoction that I came up with. It's supposed to emulate the enchanted stream that King Thranduil has. It only lasts for a certain period of time as it slowly drips into the water supply, but eventually it loses its effect. This has been, well, one of the ways that we have been, well, collecting gear for our cause. Most of the time, those who bathe in this water, those who drink from this, they tend to lose their minds and go on their way and just leave their stuff behind. And that's when we take it, but apparently it had adverse effects in this case.
Valnus sits there and kind of contemplates to himself, not really showing any emotion, but he speaks up. He's like, how do you feel about that? I mean, you said that you're the one who concocted this. I think it's amazing that you can make such things. It's a little terrifying as well. I see you to be a really good person, but I mean, he is your patient now after all because of that. Isn't a doctor's number one duty to protect the life around you?
Indeed. But as I had mentioned, this is one of the most humane ways that we could steal from them without hurting or killing any of the people that we come across. They just leave their stuff for us to take, and it does wear off eventually. It's potent, but eventually it does wear off. And so to answer your question regarding will this have lingering effects on him, I see there were adverse effects from his initial consumption. But by now, the effects should be more than gone.
And Valnus thinking to himself as this is going on, he's like, he doesn't mention this out loud, but he's thinking to himself that, well, if she's doing this and they're doing this to these people, yes, technically they're not doing harm to the people, but by stealing all their gear and all of the people like not having anything, they're basically leaving them to the wolves in this forest. So in retrospect, killing them. And Valnus takes a note of that. But does he sense any sort of remorse from her in these words or anything? Or can he even deduce whether or not she feels guilty for any of this
make an insight check. And then while you do that, the results of your medicine check, you do look him over and you see that the wounds have been skillfully patched up. A number of herbs have been used to basically cover the wounds as salves, and they seem to be working to a degree. The wounds are still pretty fresh, but you can see that his fingers are kind of twitching. His eyes are open and he's begun blinking, but he kind of stares out the back of the caravan, unable to really move to a certain degree. His skin is still very pale. He looks to be as if a ghost, and his skin still very chilly. The blood flow is just enough to keep him alive, but he seems to be on the mend from what you could tell. But insight.
Okay. And he feels, Valnith feels very encouraged by that, actually. It was a natural 20 for a 23.
Yes, there's remorse, but it's probably more for the situation and less about her creating this potion. You could tell that she genuinely believes that this is like the best way to be able to do basically things. Okay. And so she's just basically, in her mind, she's just using this skill that she has for basically the betterment of the wayward elves. But she does feel a lot of remorse for Baldur. You can tell there's a deep sadness in her eyes for the effects of it on him.
Yeah, Valnith takes note, and he's not going to press the situation. He's like, but either way, that's incredible that you can create such a things, especially if we're going to be working together. I would love to learn that at some point.
Well, it does require a few materials that are only found within the Mirkwood, and it's very long and arduous to make. In fact, the days that I do spend here keeping charge of the cargo, I do plan on concocting some more. If you would like to join me for that, I'd be more than happy to be able to show you a thing or two. But it is very difficult and finicky. It doesn't always come out right, and the effects become ineffective, essentially.
Well, I think I like to say two heads are better than one, you know? And it seems like we're gonna have a lot of time to just kind of sit here and think as we move through these woods, unless anyone gets hurt. I would love to learn the ways from you, and I can't think of a better person to be able to learn these from. I'm skilled in the healing myself, but man, this Mirkwood, I still can never get used to this. I gotta get used to this. So please help me. And he's going to be very humble about that and continue to talk with her about just remedies and things and pick her brain a little bit as this is going. So,
And while the march continues, actually, Feanor, you've caught up with Belgo. So you have still Rufus draped over your shoulder, unless you wish to place him inside the caravan. But Belgo, he kind of looks up to you, and he immediately clutches his neck, but to no avail. The talisman that has been on his neck is no longer there, adorning it. And so he looks to you, Feanor, and for the first time you actually see his hand move from his neck over to your hand, and he grasps it in your empty hand, and he sees you and says, "Did she at least look peaceful when you let her go?"
I think she was. Just remember, Belgo, that it is not that when someone is gone, it is best not to dwell on what happened to them, where they are now. I'm sure Jalen is somewhere happy. Always look inside oneself, and I think I am going to be happy with the memories of Jalen that I have. I think that the woman that I knew is kind, talented, and brave. And I will carry that with me for the rest of my days. It is not the trinkets that we carry or the talismans that remind us of who we love, who we care for. It is the memories that we have of them. And no matter what happens to those items that bring us comfort, the memories will never really.
Feanor, do you believe in magic? And he looks like
Yes.
very serious at you.
Yes, I think I believe in magic. Both Theodric and Jalen apparently talk to wizards, so...
My dad told me that there was magic in this world. And magic revolves around those whom we love and we care about. I really cared about Jalen. It doesn't feel the same without her. When my ma died, and this is the first time that he has actually opened up to you about the death of his family, or his mom. And my ma died. I wanted to go back and save her, do everything that I could, but all I could do was just stand on the shore. It's fuzzy, but I still remember standing on the shore of the long lake and just seeing all of Lake Town engulfed in fire. I saw Smaug. There were screams. And if my da had not left, and if I hadn't gone with him, it could have been me. I don't know how I got over my mother dying, and I don't think I ever will.
Do you think that's a sign of weakness?
My da said that the feelings that I'm feeling, the memories that I have, what you're saying. That's the magic that exists within this world, and that it's very powerful, and I just need to know. I just need to hold on to hope. That they're always with us, in our memories. And my dad, I'm scared. Worry if he's gonna be okay. Without him, I'm completely alone. And his eyes like turn away from you, and he looks downcast as you continue to your brisk walk.
Belgo, let me tell you a story of when I first found myself truly alone. When I was young, 5 years ago, I know for an elf it doesn't seem like long, but considering most of the elves I know are in the hundreds or thousands of years of age, I found myself preparing to defend the Mirkwood just before the Battle of Five Armies. I was patrolling with actually my friend Corinthiel. And during that time we came across a host of orcs and goblins. And I destroyed a very valuable item. One that was actually very important to King Thranduil. Because of that, I could not return home. I did not see my father, and I left behind all of my friends. I was truly alone. But through my hardship, I find myself here, standing for what I believe to be right. Yes, our circumstances are not fortunate, and I have just lost a dear friend, but I never would have had that friend. I never would have had a chance to learn new things, to explore the world. I would have been stuck in the Mirkwood forever. It is sad what happened to Lake Town, but allow that to drive you towards something. Don't just run away. Find a goal that you build yourself to. In that way, that magic will give you the ability to heal. If you're only running away, you're never truly recovering.
He takes a moment to ponder this and let it sink in. About 10 minutes pass actually in silence, and he eventually looks up to you, Feanor, and says, I want to be strong like you. I want to be smart like Valinith. I want to be courageous like Theodric. And I want to be loving like Jalen.
Well, take that into your heart. I learned from Jalen that sometimes doing what's practical isn't always the best. Actually, there's a tale there that I'll tell you one of these days of when Jalen took me to a wonderful dance at a ball, and I made an absolute fool of myself on the way there. But hold it in your heart. If you wish to be a better person, if you wish to bring joy to people like Jalen did, think of her in those moments. When you find someone that is downtrodden, alone, no one else to go to, even if they have slighted you, don't respond with anger, malice. Try to respond with kindness. In a way that you can imagine Jalen talking to someone who needed help.
That's what my doll always said.
She'll be there in all those moments that you're being a better person. I'm sure your mother is following you. My mother actually went across to the Greylands, the Grey Havens. I'm comforted by the fact that one day I'll be able to see her again. And while I miss her terribly, I try to keep the lessons of kindness and thinking through my actions. Close to my heart. I don't always listen to them. Sometimes I feel like I have an anger too much like my father's. It flares up too quickly, but I try to stay level-headed and calm and focused, and to use that to improve myself. And I can only hope that in my hopeful hundreds of years of life ahead, I can teach that lesson to more people.
And he nods. Feanor, I want to be strong. I want to be strong to protect the people that I love. In kindness, but also in strength. Too much has been taken away from me. I want to fight. I don't want to always be helpless. But how do you deal with it? When something is taken away, it hurts so much. And sometimes I get so angry. It's not fair. This life isn't fair. And I find the more I get angry, the worse that I feel. I just want to be strong so I don't have to feel angry.
Strength isn't what you can do or what you can take, but what you can give. You've had a dark life, Belgo. It's been better than some, but I'm not going to play down the fact that the events of your life have been sad and tragic. But being strong is nothing if you do not have anyone to care for. If you pursue strength, think not of what you can take from others before they take what you can from you. Think of what you can give the world. Jalen, we tried to save your father. In that, she gave her life. She was willing to give her life to protect others. That is something that she was able to give. Anger is something that can overtake someone. It is a powerful emotion. I'm sure you've seen Theodric up there, noble and graceful. You know, he does look a bit worse for wear. Don't tell him he smells like a horse. But he also suffers from a terrible anger. I've seen it. There have been times where I've had to act in the defense of others, and even for himself. Having a flaw just means that there is more that you can improve upon. Theodric has a terrible anger, but he's also one of the kindest people that I know. And I hope that one day he can harness that anger in a way that will truly help others. Being a warrior is no small thing. I am grateful for the life that I have been able to lead, for the friends that I have made. But sometimes I do wish that I had just been able to go off into a far distant corner of the woods and live my days in a small cabin, fishing, hunting, whittling wood away, making beautiful art, but I felt that I had more to give to the world. I had more courage that I could inspire in others, more skills that could be given to another like yourself. Teaching you how to use the bow, and teaching your father, that was only half of it, to defend yourselves. I wanted to give you something that you and your father could truly bond over. Something difficult, yes, but that bred companionship. It'll be something that, even into your your old age, you'll be able to remember. A skill that you'll be able to carry with you, one that you can use to defend yourself, one that you can use to provide. But the taking of a life is no easy thing. It marks you, puts a shadow over, and it can change people. harness your rage. It does not serve you. Being confused, upset, angry, all these things can make you lose yourself. But if you can turn your anger towards helping others, then I believe that you will truly one day be.
Okay. Okay. And he takes a deep breath. It's long and drawn out. Feanor, make me a promise. Make me a promise that together we'll make it out of here. We're gonna keep living. All right?
I'm gonna give him a little smile. We'll keep living. And if something does happen, we'll keep each other in our hearts, alright?
Right.
Give him a little rub on the head. And then I go back to holding his hand.
And as you continue onward, Theodric, I'm gonna have you make a perception check.
Okie dokie. Perception. Something good, please. That is a 16.
16. You control the ponies and you get a hold of this pretty easily. It's as if it's almost second nature to you. And you continue to follow, and during this time, it's a long, boring ride. You're going at a decent pace, honestly doing what you can to keep up with the elf that is out in front of you. You take a look at this elf, and he seems to be adorned in really fine leathers compared to some of the other cloth armors that you are seeing. He looks to be an elf of relative importance. You kind of take a look around you at each basically side where Mirkwood surrounds you, and you desperately try to peer in beyond the darkness. And you can just barely see flashes of green and brown duck in and out between the boughs of the trees. It seems that the elves are keeping very close to the path, but doing all they can to stay out. And if you, to the untrained eye and completely unaware, they would go completely unnoticed, as they are completely silent. You don't even hear a single footfall on either side. It's as if you were traveling before on this elf path. You do notice that within this brisk pace, you see that Valinith in the back has altogether stopped talking to Cranthiel, and you can look down and see that Feanor is talking quietly to Belgo. But other than that, there's not a lot of words other than just hoof trots and whatnot going forward. But you do know that this is going to be a very long trek ahead of you. From your count, you still had over a month, and from what you can tell at the pace that you're going, the caravan is in some kind of rush to get through this forest as quickly as possible. Time passes on, day in, day out. You find yourselves repeating the same things, the same tasks, joining with the same people. Valinith, you take your time to learn the ways of healing from a Mirkwood elf. The one thing that surprises you is how quick Cranthiel is also to learning some of your techniques as well. The two of you seem like a decently good pair, but during this time, there's very little talk outside of the task at hand treating Baldur. And within about 4 days' time, Baldur has gotten to the point where he can sit up and even begin to kind of hobble around. He's become aware of himself, which at first he was very shocked and just felt as if he had slipped into a dream. Unable to gain complete control of his motor skills, but quickly seeing the new companions that all of you have with you, and essentially during break times, all of the elves reconvening and all of the tasks that they're supposed to do. Baldur, in kind of a state of shock, looks to Belgo and sees that he needs to do everything that he can to be able to protect Belgo. The group of you all have time to be able to discuss with him the events that had recently taken place, including the unfortunate end of Jalen and all of the tasks that everybody is required to perform. But the one thing that he constantly keeps murmuring to himself is, well, what's the point? Why us? Why us? A question that also continuously echoes with you, from especially the speech that Maeglin had originally given the group of you about talking about how this quest is going to go down in the history books and whatnot. That's something that, especially with you, Valinith, is really pinging your brain. What makes you so special, and what makes this company so special, that it seems that Maeglin is really determined to get to where you guys are going to meet up with the Northmen as fast as possible. So this is something that's continuously stirring in your brain. Feanor, during this time, during the breaks, you have actually gotten the opportunity to go into the forest with Nornir. Nornir is a very soft-spoken individual, but you can tell that he's very skilled at what he does. It's very difficult to tell if you recognize him at all, as he always keeps his face and his head completely covered by his hood and his mask. But he does everything with precision and with ease. In fact, you actually notice that upon finding some game to hunt, you see that his tracking skills are compared to none that you've ever seen. And the way that he silently sneaks up on prey, it's as if every shot with his arrow hits the exact mark, killing the creatures that are within the woods seamlessly with no suffering at all. His pinpoint accuracy is incredible. And he turns to you and he asks, could you do such things? And basically he kind of nods over in a general direction. And at this point, on your hunts, you are essentially given a short bow and a quiver of arrows. And he points over kind of in the distance. Do you see that book over there? And you squint your eyes. I'm going to have you make a perception check for me.
Natural 20 for 23.
Ooh, yeah, you do. In fact, this is, you take one look at it and your stomach begins to growl. This is actually the first full-sized animal that you have seen within Mirkwood, and it is standing there perfectly for you to be able to take a shot at it. Feanor, I want you to really focus on this shot. You're going to be aiming for the temple of its head. It's a difficult shot to make, and if you make any sudden movements, it'll catch the attention. Breathe deeply. When you feel the time is right, release. Show me what you've got. I'm going to have you make an attack roll. This is going to be at advantage.
I got 15.
You hit it just below the temple in the cheek, and it begins to writhe on the ground as very swiftly Nornir makes his way over and takes his knife and slits its throat. You join him pretty soon after as you begin skinning the creature. He looks back to you. That was very impressive. Maeglin said you weren't a fighter, but have you hunted before?
Yes. I only ever hunt what I need to eat. Now, I actually came across a boar in these woods a little while back, about a week ago, I think. Quite a large one too, but I let it on its way. We've had no way to have to have brought it back to my companions, and it would have been a shame to have killed it, especially with the lack of game that we've seen.
Well, you see, with what you've done for us today and with my catch as well, we should be set for a few days at least. We have a large company to feed and many mouths to feed. But it is thanks to you and myself that we'll be able to keep progressing at the pace that we are. he is going to remember this moment with you. And from then on, as time progresses, the two of you actually grow rather close. Again, still unable to see his face and whatnot, but I'm going to have you make a performance check for me.
5.
He realizes that there is not a lot to you as far as deception. If anything, it looks like that you're genuinely trying to work hard. But more than that, he senses that there's an air of something extra, and he keeps his eyes close on you. And this continues on for a number of days as you continuously hunt and search. The things that you are learning, the things that Nornir is teaching you in the woods, is not only how to track through these unfamiliar terrain, this shadow-touched land, essentially, but how to keep your eyes and ears open. He looks at you constantly with an air of suspicion, always keeping his hand on a dagger that is all around the waist at his back. Every time he's talking, you never see him without at least one hand, except for when he's shooting, not on this. You're impressing him to a point, but he seems determined to try to help you become the best tracker that you could be during this time. And during these days as well, so Theodric, you find yourself constantly in the care of the ponies. You find yourself constantly at watch, especially when you are all stopped and all the elves are kind of convening. At this point, Baldur and Belgo are doing all that they can to go from elf to elf, even to the point where they're doing kind of unnecessary tasks like shining boots and like just busy work for the sake of busy work. And you find yourself longing to be able to step in and help. However, you do hear the words of Maeglin, and his constant presence, especially during the break, is very evident. Eyes always seem to be upon him as he walks to and fro. But as his tent is set up for long periods of time, you notice that he spends inside these tents. And these two guards that always seem to be with him during breaks, they look like they take some kind of a watch. One of them is always watching the caravan and you as a whole as you continue to take care of Baradarok. I'm going to have you make an insight check for me.
Okie dokie. Oh boy. Let's roll a quick D16
Ooh,
and
come on.
pray. And pray that it works.
Do you not have the one that I rolled, like, literally last
I want
session?
to keep that for something important.
Oh my god.
You just got a 16 again.
By the way, you
What?
can't have two stacked on top of you, so you
Oh,
gotta
that's
use
true.
You've
one.
got to use one.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then
Well, I'll
16.
use one, and then I just got a
Roll.
freebie. So
Okay.
And then just use another one.
Yeah.
okay.
Guys,
That sucks
Two in a row.
because
And that's
I
good
know,
because I went
but-
from a
That's
4 to a 20.
crazy
I'm
good.
sorry. Now that means Jalen's contributions are no longer relevant. They've been repeated, so like.
Well, that was useful because I went from an insight of 4 to an insight of 20. So
And you get another one now too, Fanel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I
I
would
only
too.
get the one though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I already
I
had
used
one.
mine last time.
Mm-hmm.
Aw.
With
Can I roll a d20 just for funsies?
yeah, please go ahead.
Just for the,
Okay, I will roll a d20 with advantage.
remember, Rufus has your other inspiration from the previous DC.
Jalen knows
Yes,
nothing.
can
She is
Rufus
a
have
rotting
this
pile of
inspiration, and then my other inspiration will go to my new character?
No, unfortunately, you weren't
Okay.
there to
Not
receive it. But Rufus still
That's
does have one,
gross.
so he's
That's
feeling inspired.
Disgusting.
I know.
Gross.
But you said, Theodric, you said your insight was 20.
Yep, not a natural 20, but a 20.
So the
Okay.
days pass, and you notice that these two guards, their names are Taladir and Kalathir. So Taladir and Calathir are the two guards that are kept close, and they're always talking to each other. They seem to be some kind of higher ups within the hierarchy of the Wayward Elves. And from what you have deduced, these two have been with Maeglin the longest out of any Wayward Elf. And they are always, one of the two of them are always keeping an eye. However, one day, probably about 6 or 7 days into your journey, Taladir, as they basically he takes over for Calathir, he looks quite displeased. I'm going to have you make a perception check for me.
That is a 5.
5. You can see that he is talking in hushed tones to Calathir as they begin to switch. And they talk for about a minute. But neither of them look too happy as Calathir goes back to the tent where Maeglin is. And you can see that Taladir, he looks at you first, and he kind of squints his eyes suspiciously at you. And he walks up and he approaches. So, I noticed that you're good with animals. What do they call you?
They call me Theodric Grimborn.
Interesting name. Tell me, Theodric Grimborn, can you ride this beast as well as you can take care of it?
Well, yes, generally I do, but Maeglin has ordered me not to on pain of death, so I stay firmly on the ground.
Yes. And he ponders for about a minute. I'm going to have you make a perception check for me as he whispers something beneath his...
That is a 9.
9. You just hear... obedience. And he kind of shakes his head and looks at you once more. He's not quite as tall, but his stature is broad for an elf. You see that on his back he carries a bow at all times along with a fully stocked quiver, and he has what looks to be a broadsword at his side. His hand is on his broadsword as he looks, and again, his leathers are much finer than those that are around, but he sees you. I've always dreamed of riding a horse. He kind of takes his tongue and licks his back molars and just as if contemplating and thinking. As you were. And he goes ahead and he walks back, and he boredly, very this is the last thing he wants to be doing, essentially watches you and everything that's going on at camp. You notice this, especially from day 6 onward. You notice that this is a regular occurrence. You see that Taladir is getting more and more frustrated. I think that's the best word to be able to use, is he's getting frustrated. Calathir, on the other hand, is not. He seems just as stoic as ever until one day you do actually overhear the two of them talking to each other. Taladir, he snorts. I can't believe we're reduced to mere babysitting duty, Calathir. Is this what Maeglin thinks of our abilities as warriors? Standing here, wasting our skills while he shuts himself away for who knows what purpose? Calathir, he looks, again, stoic but firm. And with the stern expression, he says, our duty is to protect Maeglin and to ensure the safety of the company. Guarding the prisoners is crucial to prevent any attempts at escape. It's not a matter of doubting our abilities. It's about fulfilling our responsibilities. And Taladir just bewildered. Responsibilities? You're just too submissive, Calathir. Maeglin has us wrapped around his finger. We're his most loyal cohorts, and yet, here we are, reduced to glorified guards. Calathir, he narrows his eyes, and he looks at Taladir. How dare you question Maeglin's orders? Our loyalty thus far has been unquestionable, Taladir. We have served him with unwavering devotion. Guarding the prisoners is a necessary task, and we must execute it diligently. And with a loud outburst, Tailithir, diligently? More like obediently? Don't you see, Caelithir? Maeglin doesn't trust us enough to put us in the front lines with him, to plan our assaults. He thinks we're expendable, mere pawns in his grand plan. And Caelithir, he narrows his eyes and just shh, and he says, "You're wrong, Tailithir. Our role is vital to ensuring Maeglin's safety and the success of this expedition. We protect him with our lives, and he knows that. It's not about expendability. It's about the trust that he places on us to watch his back." And Tailithir just, his eyes obviously go up to the skies. He just rolls his eyes at this. Trust? I'd rather be at the forefront, fighting alongside Maeglin like a true warrior. But no, we're stuck here, wasting our talents because he doesn't think we're capable enough. Caelithir firmly responds, "You underestimate the importance of our task. Guarding the prisoners is no simple matter. It requires vigilance and discipline. We must be ever watchful, for the escape could jeopardize everything Maeglin has worked for." Exasperated, just absolutely exasperated, Tailithir, in a hushed voice, says, "Vigilance? Discipline? With this docile bunch," and he actually gestures out to you, Theodric. You've been doing nothing but following orders up until this point, barely even engaging anyone in conversation. "You saw how quickly Maeglin dismantled that big one. You think they pose any threat to the likes of us? You're blind to the truth, Caelithir. We're nothing more than just glorified watchmen. Maeglin sees us as expendable, replaceable." And Caelithir says in a loud voice, "You're wrong, Tailithir. Our loyalty and dedication are what make us indispensable to Maeglin. He relies on us, trusts us, and yet, here you are, questioning our commander and his decisions." Tailithir, he grits his teeth as if angered. "Maybe it's time we question our loyalty to him. Maybe we should be fighting for a leader who truly values our skills, not one who hides us away like cowards." Caelithir, with anger in his voice, "Careful, Tailithir. Maeglin is our commander, and as such, we must follow his orders without question. Your doubts and discontent are dangerous. Should I be doubting your loyalties to our Lord?" And there's a moment of silence and clear tension between the two of them. Defiantly, not immediately, but after some time, defiantly, Tailithir says, "I am plenty loyal. I'm just tired of being treated like a pawn. Caelithir, I want to fight for a leader who sees us as equals, not one who hides us away to play nursemaid to prisoners. He's changed. Haven't you seen it?" And Caelithir coldly says, "If you can't see the importance of our duty, then maybe Lord Maeglin has placed the trust in the wrong elf. I won't stand by and let you tarnish our honor to Maeglin and our duties." Snarling back, Tailithir says, "Maybe you're too blinded by your loyalty to see the truth, Caelithir. Think about it. Are we really serving a leader who respects and values us as true warriors? But fine. I'll play along with Maeglin's little game. I'll continue to keep watch over those sorry excuses for life," and he points over to Theodric, Baldur, Belgo. "But the second we hand them off to the King of the North, you better believe I'll have a word with our Lord." And Caelithir coldly, "Do as you wish. But know this. I will no longer tolerate any disdain of our Lord's plans for us. Our lives are his to do with as he pleases, for the betterment of our people and for the glory of the elves. Remember that. And immediately, Taylithir just... and he walks away back to the tent as Taylithir stands stoically, very dutifully watching out. You catch every single word of this, Theodric. It is clear from what you have witnessed that there's... not everybody is quite in line with Maeglin's thoughts.
Sorry, just checking that he can hear me.
Mm.
Do they know I could hear them, or?
They did not seem concerned at all.
Oh, cool.
If anything, from what it sounds like, especially Caelithir, but also Taylithir, they don't look at you in any way, in any sort, as any kind of threat. And this has been proven by essentially your obedience up until this point.
Lovely. Okay. Well, Theodric is going to, with that useful bit of information, go back to doing his duties. Just kind of wandering, hoping that Valineth and Feanor are generally nearby.
And actually, Valineth is at this point. So during breaks, Feanor's never with you. He's always off into the forest doing, essentially, training to help and help lead men through the woods, essentially. But Valineth is there. Valineth, I'm going to have you make a perception check for me.
Well, it's a good thing I'm pretty good at that. Let's see if I roll well. Oh, that's natural 1, so I'm going to re-roll that. I have the inspiration to do so. That's another natural 1, so that's a 6.
Wow. Wow.
It happens.
2 in a row.
No, you didn't hear any of this. Actually, at the moment, you are really speaking with Corinthiel. So again, this is about day 6 into your journey together. And she hasn't really opened up a whole lot, but the one thing that you have noticed is her gaze is always looking towards the wood from either side.
We know who she's looking for.
She looks very perturbed. Everything that is happening in the general atmosphere of everything is just, she isn't as she was when you had first met her. There hasn't been a lot of opportunity, first of all, for her and Feanor to be able to get to talk, but she seems relatively closed off, as it were.
Okay. Valineth notices this, and little by little, I think he kind of understands. And he says, "So, Corinthiel, it seemed like my compatriot."
Firstly, Theodric, I think, was trying to allude to something that he was trying to do. So let's stick with that first.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Go ahead.
Theodric would like to quickly look around and see if he can kind of talk to Valineth quietly without being overheard.
Well, Corinthiel is pretty much always right there. So the two of them are like peas in a pod at the moment.
Okay. Well, in that case, Theodric is just going to kind of... Are they just in the back of the wagon still?
Not necessarily in the back of the wagon, because now Baldur is able to walk around and do stuff. And so a lot of the times they're actually found inside the tent. And one thing I will get to I'll get to that later, Valineth. So, but yes, Theodric.
Okay, well, Theodric is going to just kind of sidle up to Valineth and just be like, "So, I heard some interesting news. It would seem that our time together may be coming to an end soon."
Quick question for the Fate Weaver, sorry, not Fate Weaver, Lore Master. Is this the first time I've been able to talk with Theodric since basically any of this has happened?
No, basically
Okay.
on your travel, like during the regular caravanning movement portion of your travels, you're able to talk to each other pretty freely. That's actually very much a time where you almost have to talk to just pass the time.
Okay. I was just wondering if this is the first interaction I've had with him since then. Theodric, what do you mean, coming to an end? It seems like the road's never ending.
Well, according to, just gossip around camp, it sounds like Belgo, Beldor, and I are going to be handed over to the Northmen when we get there. And the rest of you may be staying with our dear host for the foreseeable future.
Why, that is a problem indeed. And Valneth really thinks himself, but he's also doing his best to try to, like, not look like he's really taken aback by this, in case there are others watching.
Make a performance check.
Yeah, he's really trying to stay in character. Oh, but I'm so bad at performance. Why? Please don't be a natural one. Oh, what is that? That's an 8. It was teetering on a natural 20 and an 8.
You are taken aback a little bit. You're just like, but then you immediately, you see that Caranthiel's eyes. She like looks at you from probably about 8 feet away, but then she kind of shakes her head a little bit and continues working as she was. An elf has basically come. One of the company of elves is being treated for some kind of wound that they had during travel.
Valnith sees that, and he tries to maintain his composure, but he says under his breath, "Look to the east on the second day, or on the third day." No, he's not going to say that. He's going to say, "Thank you for the information, Theodric," and like we'll give him like a nod, kind of thing, acknowledging that fact, what he heard. So
we need to figure something out soon.
we definitely do. I'll see if I can get any information about how much longer our path is until that happens, until we can concoct a plan. But in the meantime, I think you're actually doing a really good job, and I'm really sorry you're having to put up with this. I obviously prefer that this isn't the case too, but I'm just glad that you're safe and you're alive, my friend.
Yes, thank you.
By the way, I do kind of want to like have a little bit of a conversation with him. I'm assuming we would have talked about this beforehand, but if we
Feel
can have
free,
it now,
leave the reins. I'm gonna get handed over to you.
Okay. I mean, we've had our conversations to and from, but how are you doing, my friend? I feel like it's been a long time since we've actually talked about anything other than this journey. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Honestly, I'm just trying to focus on getting out of this alive and protecting Belgo. It's what Jalen died for. It's what she would have wanted. I'll have time to mourn and grieve a bit later, but for now I need to focus on getting out of here in one piece.
And Valinith kind of like does a little bit of like a chest chuckle to himself, not anything very audible, but like acknowledging that, and he says, "I get that you're a man of duty. In all my years, I don't know if I've met anyone who's been quite such a person of duty and as understanding of that. I wish I could be like that from time to time, but even in this situation, I know you've been quiet about the whole situation. But if you ever need to open up, I can make time for that."
I appreciate that, Valinith. It's not so much a duty that holds me back, it's practicality. If I fall apart now, then I stop being useful to Maeglin, and if that happens, well, I would probably join Jalen far quicker than any of us would have liked.
And Valnith, like even more under his breath, than what he's been speaking. He whispers, "I'm really sorry, Theodric. I wish the rest of my brethren could understand, but this isn't the way of elves." And that's what he'll leave it at just really quietly under his breath.
Theodric just kind of gives him a nod and just a pat on the shoulder, and is going to go back to his duties. Check on the ponies, and check on Barada Rock and everything.
And actually, Theodric, during this time, you're one of the few people that get direct. Actually, you and Belgo and Baldur are the three individuals of the party that get decently regular access to the cart. Whether it's getting pony food or whatever the case, getting fancy wines, ones that were in Baldur's caravan that Maeglin seemed to have taken a liking to, filling those up and serving. Just FYI, Valineth and Feanor have not been allowed really near the wagon, but your duties require you to do so. So just keep that in mind. With that, Valineth, which leaves you and Corinthiel. And so as she essentially wraps up this one elf's arm and is on the way, one thing that you've noticed upon your travels within these past 6 days is almost, it seems like every single day, an elf or two comes in during the break and needs some kind of repairs. It doesn't seem like these elves are simply just on the side of the path, watching you as you continue forward. They're fighting something. I'm going to have you make a medicine check for me.
Let's not roll poo, hopefully. Let's see. Medicine. It's not great, but not bad. 13.
The vast majority of these wounds that come in are bites from spiders. It seems ever since you have left, there has been some kind of pursuit of the party as a whole. And the elves have essentially taken the duties to clear the woods around in order for safe travel of the caravan. They are serving to protect you to a degree. But a couple of these individuals that have come back have actually suffered what look to be arrow wounds as well.
Can I see, do I recognize is there arrows still sticking in them, or have they ripped them out at this point? Do any of them come
usually
in
they're
with
ripped out or broken off before they come.
Okay. Do they seem orcish in nature? Do they seem like proper, like as like a proper?
So there's two occasions that this has happened. I'm gonna have you make two separate lore checks for me. The first one I'm gonna have you make. The lore traditions checks. I guess it would be traditions.
It's the same number I rolled for lore, but it's a +2. So the first one's a 5.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Oh my gosh, and the second one was an 8. Oh my gosh, the heck, Theodric!
You take a look.
Why are you blaming me?
You take a look at the
Karma's
first
catching up
wound.
to me.
You take a look at the first wound, and this arrow looks pretty mangled. You remove it, and it looks to be kind of with serrated edges. From your best guess, it's most likely orcish or goblin. You're not quite sure. The second arrow, though, from an individual, looks to be more intact, and the shaft seems to actually be polished. This is most likely either a humanoid from the human races, but it could also potentially be elven.
Okay. Just a quick aside, how would I go about spelling Calathir and Taladir?
Yes, so Taladir is Taladir, and Calathir is Caelethir. Calathir.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect.
And so you have noticed that the elves that are on the sides seem to be fighting during their travels. Yet at the same time, surprisingly, they're still keeping pace with your brisk pace. Speaking of which, I'm going to have Valinith, Theodric, and Feanor. All of you are going to make Constitution saving throws for me.
Okay, this is the time not to be crud.
Would
Please.
I get
No!
advantage? Would I get advantage because I've been riding on the wagon and not walking?
Yes, I will say that.
I got a 15.
Don't need it. 24.
It was teetering on a natural 20 and it's a 2.
Yeah, I got a natural 20 plus 4. So
Can I borrow that plus 4?
Valinith, you gain 1 point of exhaustion. Feanor and Theodric, you've actually staved it off completely. In fact, actually, Theodric, you are feeling real good. You don't remove
Have I
points.
lost?
No, you don't remove points, but you're feeling much better. But this pace is really taking its toll on you, Valinith, and you actually notice.
Where do I mark that, by the way, on the sheet?
It's under conditions. If you have to click on conditions. It's like in the boxes at
it's
the
under
top
your
right.
HP.
Oh, okay, I got you. We're good. Okay.
If, what if I rolled another con save? Could I maybe get rid of my exhaustion?
No.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well,
it's,
those hours of being a servant, it is still in the service industry.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
it's still
With
difficult.
rude customers at that, so it's still exhausting.
Okay, so Meglin's just a Karen, is what we're saying.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, Valinith, you do gain a point of exhaustion, so this is
Okay.
pretty tiring. And actually, the majority of it, little by little, Baldur has been gaining his movement back, but he's actually been hanging out in the back of the caravan in order to just keep up with the caravan upon the travels. But Belgo does walk along the side of the caravan. Anyways, and so now you are free as the patient leaves Valinith to discuss anything that you want with Caranthiel.
Yeah, so noticing she keeps like looking back towards the woods. Valinith, I'm assuming at this point is very. Does he denote or does he feel like it's a point of worry that she's looking back, or is it more so like she's just being watchful and wary?
Make an insight check.
It's now a disadvantage, which freaking sucks. I'm already rolling like poo. Skills. Okay, sorry. What kind of check? One more time.
Insight.
That was a good roll. Roll again. Okay, it's the same. 16.
16.
Yeah.
With that, you can tell that she seems concerned
Okay.
about a lot of things.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like, because she still looks at the wood even while Feanor is within sight. She's not always riding in the caravan, I will say this. She does take her turns out in the wood during the travels. She's only ridden with you in the caravan a total of 2 times.
Okay.
But during that time, even when Feanor is there, you do notice that she does like glance and look, and Feanor's actually noticed this too. That like she'll like glance and kind of like look down at Feanor, but her eyes also go towards the forest that's around. Very observant, but there's like a hint of worry and concern in her eyes.
Is she young like Feanor, or is she like?
Oh yeah,
okay.
She's super young like Feanor.
Okay. Excuse me, young one. I can't help but notice your eyes turning towards the woods. Is everything okay?
Oh, you noticed that, huh?
It's pretty apparent, actually. Seems like everyone's on edge here.
She kind of nods and like kind of scooches over like closer and says, Valinith, you've been traveling with Feanor for some time. How much do you really know about him? And she kind of like looks like with concern.
Feanor. He's young. He's very young, in fact. Sometimes his naivete sends me up a wall. My goodness, I remember my days, and I was never that wily and rambunctious. But for what I do know of him, he's honest. And I know he tries his best to follow his heart in everything that he does. I do worry of him, of course. I worry because he is so passionate, especially about those that he loves so much. I worry that one of these days that passion is going to get him killed. And again, I don't think he's a bad person. In fact, he's one of the most noble and wonderful people I've ever met here on this earth, and I wish I could learn a thing or two from him. As far as his past, he's been pretty quiet about it. I do know that his father, he has a little bit of a rocky relationship with his father, and he's not necessarily welcome in the woodland halls. However, he really does see the beauty in life, and I think that's amazing.
She kind of nods, and then she kind of cozies up a little closer and speaks in a hushed voice. And as she does so, you can actually smell the like a very almost like sweet aroma, like natural aroma coming from her, and she's bewildering. Just FYI,
Yeah.
like you've
Oh, yeah.
noticed something about her, and she's just breathtaking.
Oh yeah.
But she says, and you see, I've known him for nearly my whole life. But I see him now and he's completely changed.
Valinith kind of cocks his head, kind of like a confused dog in a sense. I mean, I've known him for about over half a year at this point, but he doesn't seem all that different from when I met him. What do you mean by that? What was he like before?
She thinks for but a moment. 5 years ago, Fëanor and I, we parted ways. We grew up together here in the woods, and we actually learned all about this beautiful world around us, Mirkwood. Or as I used to lovingly call it, the Greenwood. I know it's not been called that for some time, but to me, it's always been that. And Fëanor, well, he was the one that I always enjoyed it with. This to me has always been home. When we parted ways 5 years ago, he didn't join me. He didn't go home. Our home was lost to us, sure. Circumstances never allowed us to go back to the woodland realm. But the forest was my home. Fëanor, well, I feel like he abandoned his home and he abandoned me. He went off into the world of men. The events from 5 years ago, maybe that's where he began to change. I see him now, and yes, physically it's still him, but he just seems almost unrecognizable from the Fëanor that I knew. When I went into the wood, for me, the first year was the hardest. I sought solace in isolation, believing that distance from everything and everyone would let the world forget about me and the atrocity to our people that both Fëanor and I committed. But in my isolation, I soon realized that it was companionship that I craved ultimately. The warmth of shared experience and comfort. The comfort of knowing that someone cared. My family, well, Fëanor, could have been just around the tree line, or even a world away, and I wouldn't have known it. Or honestly even had the eyes to see him in the dark places that I hid. So, it was driven by this deep longing for companionship, that is, that I wandered through the forest searching for others who would fill this desire. Those who cared not for the consequences of my actions, even if that meant seeking solace in the company of outcasts like myself. Well, it was on a fateful day. I believe it was autumn. I remember that it was a nice crisp morning. A small mist hang within Mirkwood. Well, 3 years ago, on that day, I stumbled upon the wayward elves. And as you can see, they're kind of renegades. And they craved freedom above all else. While we roamed the woods, taking what we pleased, defying the expectations placed upon us by the society and Thranduil's laws. At the time, our band was small, including myself and Maeglin, no more than 8 of us by the time I joined. But as the years progressed, we began to grow more followers, outcasts from Thranduil's halls. Many of these elves had a reason to hate the king, and they stand firm in their determination to see him, well, unseated from the throne. You see, Valinith, this band of wayward elves, as they call us, and I guess as we call ourselves at this point, they welcomed me into the fold, seeing the healer within me. And I became their herbalist, tending to their wounds and offering solace where I could. Their way of life grew on me. The thrill of the raids, the freedom to live as we desired. But even amidst the chaos and revelry, there's still, even to this day, an emptiness that still persists. And she touches her chest and almost grips at it. And, well, the presence of the wayward elves have yet to fill that emptiness. Well, I've come to realize that while I retreated back to my home here in Mirkwood, home is not merely a place, I guess. She thinks. For me, I think it's a sense of belonging. Connection to something greater than oneself. Mirkwood, with all of its danger and darkness, especially in these recent years, it still holds a piece of my heart. And as much as I revel in the freedom of this group of renegades, part of me secretly longs for a familiar embrace of home. Those who truly know me and love me. And she kind of looks downcast between her legs as she sits.
Valnith ponders a little bit to himself. And he speaks up. And he says, "To me, it doesn't seem like Feanor's the one who's changed. Maybe you're the one who's changed. In the end."
She looks confused.
Yeah. And Valinith says, I mean, by elven standards, I'm still also very young. Actually, coming up here soon, I'll be reaching my 778th year of life.
She actually laughs at that.
Yeah. I know, 777, lucky number, but what luck we are in here. But in the end, I feel like I am very lucky to be part of it. But I think, as living beings on this earth, it's really hard to see the change in ourselves sometimes. Especially when you're in hurt or when you're in pain. Oftentimes people, project their hurt and their pain on others. in a way. I've been guilty of this myself, and oftentimes my father, every time he would come home from his bouts out in the wild, I would often say, "Father, you've changed so much," and he's like, "Oh no, young one, that's just you. That's just life growing on you. I'm the same old father that 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 you know so well. But that comes with growing, my friend." I actually feel like Feanor and you are seeking very similar things. Of course, he left the Woodland Realm for a bit, and he explored the world. I know him himself. This seeing the wood like this, and Valneth looks around, is also painful for him because I know he also shares a piece of his heart. Will always be in this realm. But I know he's also gone out into the world, and he's also experienced many things in these past 5 years. He's met all kinds of people. I mean, the stories he has, the amount of times and the amount of encounters he's had, it almost seems like he's at least 1,000 years old with how many different experiences he's had. But I also feel like he's really trying to find the same thing as you. He bounces from place to place, at least so I've heard. He doesn't stay anywhere too long. Whereas you, on the other hand, you are also bouncing place to place. You don't ever stay anywhere too long. I think you both crave, deep in your hearts, whether it's purpose, whether it's that companionship you're alluding to. I mean, he is a good-looking boy, isn't he? I just wish he'd grow out his hair again, you know?
She like, you can tell that she blushes slightly, but like kind of shakes it off.
Yep. But in the end, I really don't think he's changed all that much. In freedom, what is truly freedom? And Valith ponders. As a scholar, these are the questions of the world that really pique my curiosity, right? And I'm not even sure I know necessarily myself. But one thing I have learned in my travels and in my time here on this earth: living for yourself is not the way of this world. There will always be an emptiness for it. Whether it's a duty that you have to perform, whether it's the relationships you make in life. If you're only doing this to satiate your own deep desires and your own personal cravings, it's only ever going to be surface level. You have to do it for something that's deeper.
And that's just
And
the
I feel...
thing. Valineth. Everything that I do here, I've put my services for the Wayward Elves to help. Especially my friends. And I understand as well that even without me, well, many of my newfound friends, at least from these past 3 years, would be left without my healing. I have a very important role here. As you can see, this is a pretty regular occurrence, day in, day out, helping. Our ultimate goal, well, at least why I joined, is to fight the shadow. Yes, freedom. Freedom's wonderful. But freeing ourselves from the shadow, that's my freedom. And it is the memories that I've shared with each one of them and the amount of times that I've been able to save a life. It gives me purpose, but I still feel empty, and I feel guilty for that. These woods are darkening, and it seems that we're always running into conflict. If not from the spiders, then she kind of leans in from Ruithel and her band of savage hunters. It is a bittersweet sacrifice, I think, to find purpose among those who have chosen to reject the very home that I yearn for. It hurts. And I've heard in the hurts that I've committed as well, against the innocent, my own people, and King Thranduil himself. Well, they've officially divided me from my home. And I know that I can never go back, truly, as there's most certainly a price on my head. And so, I will continue to walk this path, tending to the wounds of my companions and offering what solace I can, all the while carrying a flicker of hope that someday this emptiness within me will find its peace.
Valna smiles and places a hand on her shoulder. And that is exactly why you are a wonderful and amazing person, my friend. Healing's no easy task, and it's no easy job. I know better than anyone. Sometimes it's thankless. Actually, oftentimes it is very thankless. And when you fail, you feel like you fail the person that you're not only the person that you're healing, but failing life itself. We're not perfect. We do our best to try to heal. But the reason I do it is to preserve that life, to fight against the shadow. We're always in conflict with it, whatever we do. In my experiences, I mean, this isn't my fight. Honestly, this is a new part of the world to me, and I don't know the conflict itself, but I've also experienced true shadow, and I believe you have too. This is a really difficult situation that we're all in right now, because all this infighting only breeds more of this. I'm in no position to physically fight against any of this. I'm decent with a bow, but my prowess is in protecting those lives and preserving lives. This Maeglin fellow that you follow, in my discussions talking with him, I see a similar desire in him that I see in you, however. Do you know of the high elf heritage we can sense shadow? Have you heard of this?
I've heard, well, I know from experience elven magics exist. But the ability to sense shadow, that seems, well, even beyond my comprehension.
I mean, it's a little bit behind mine too, but Iluvatar, our creator, it's a gift that he gave us high elves. People often, especially when shadow's present, whenever a high elf is present, they often claim that we shine brighter than anything in that darkness. I've never seen it myself personally, but I hear things about this. But that also, I'm attuned to that shadow. And I worry for Maeglin, because I don't think he's gone. But I sense
she looks like, for the first time, she stands and she looks at you, and there's actually tears in her eyes as she gazes upon you.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying, there's shadow in all of us, deep down. And it's up to us to fight for the light, and not the shadow. I want to say follow your heart, but I don't even know what that means myself. I want to trust my heart, but I also don't want to put other people in danger as well.
She thinks for a moment. I'm gonna have you during this make a perception check for me.
Yeah. It's a 17.
17. So she begins to speak.
Yep.
Maeglin was, well, he wasn't like this always. He was hurt. Hence the reason he left Thranduil's halls. Someone very close to him in the Battle of the Five Armies was slain. He left Thranduil's halls. I think deep down, looking upon the king himself, reminded him of his lost friend. And so he left with, I believe, the original intention, as I had met him, with the original intention of creating our own society. It seems of recent, it seems of late. The shadow that you say, his stances on life, of things, have slowly begun to change. It seems these days he cares not as much for the woods and the encroaching shadow, but more for vengeance. Vengeance against the people that he claims left his companion to die. It wasn't until actually meeting you that I truly learned his views on the mortals of this world. That's something he's always kept hidden from me. As you can imagine, it comes as a surprise when I found your companion was Jalen, was her name, right?
That's correct.
She did not die from wounds from a spider.
And Valnith, does he know this at this point? Does he realize?
No, you do not.
Okay.
Feanor and Valineth haven't heard. I think it's Theodric.
Okay. Okay. Valnith is a little bit taken aback by this.
I did tell Feanor.
Mm.
I did
You
tell
said
Feanor.
that
It wasn't spiders who killed her, and I
yeah.
looked at Maeglin very much like, like at the
Feanor
time.
might have some idea, but it's nothing 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Valnith, I guess, doesn't know any of this, I guess, then.
Mhm.
And he's very confused. And he's like, what do you mean? I mean, what else could have killed her?
The wounds that I treated, they were wounds of a punctured lung. No spider bite could have done that, and even the weight of spiders couldn't do that. I have a sneaking suspicion something happened that night. I'm not 100% sure. I can only diagnose what I see, but Valineth, Maeglin's not the elf that I knew. Something has taken hold of him. A deep-set rage and anger. His path of vengeance, I fear, is not going to bring us freedom.
I know there's not much that we can do in our situation. I've seen him, and he's an old elf. He's a wise elf. Wise in terms of life experience. But
By the way, that perception check that you had,
yeah.
you do notice as she reaches up to wipe a tear from her eye, you notice that there is a silver ring of pure starlight upon her finger.
Do I have any idea of what that could be?
Do you have an idea of what finger that could mean?
Oh, is she married? Is she married?
Or something.
Is it a ring that she has on her finger?
Yeah.
Oh.
Someone liked it, so they put a ring on it.
Oh snap!
Oh my god! What is this love triangle?
Beyonce.
Oh my gosh.
I
Okay.
mean, it's
This love
really a
triangle that
triangle though.
Feanor is not
I
aware.
mean,
Uh,
she basically told Valinith that she loves Feanor. Let's face it. She basically
Did
she
she though?
she did. She really cares about him.
They're just besties. Come on.
Yeah, I
Really?
no, maybe you think she's besties, but Valinith knows better.
What?
And they were
No.
roommates.
I thought
Anyways,
Theodric was your
This
best.
this doesn't sound like.
It's become a love square. Valinith is in the equation.
Valin's like, oh yes.
he sees Cupid's arrow. Anyways,
I mean, yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I don't think any creature of Iluvatar, any child of Iluvatar, is completely gone. I don't know what your relationship is to, aside from being friendly with these wayward elves is. You do seem devoted to this leader Maeglin himself. I worry for him because, as I said before, I sense shadow upon him from when I met him. But as a healer, there's nothing I'd rather want and rather do than to see that shadow go. I heard these wise words once from my mother. Evil doesn't create. Evil only mocks. And I know. Hurt and pain changes people. And right now, Valinith, his heart's broken because he understands that now Jalen was probably murdered by Maeglin. He kind of understands that at this point. But despite the shadow that we encounter in this life, we must keep fighting for what is true. And in this conversation, Valinith has a lot to think about. And he has a lot to digest. In particular, a lot that he needs to... A lot of contemplation. And he thinks in the back of his mind, I wish I had my notebook to write this all down. And
At this point,
the last...
yes.
Yeah. Well, just the last thing that he's gonna say. He's gonna put a hand on her shoulder. Don't give up hope, young one. For ourselves, life is long. But continue to fight. To fight for the light. Because once darkness is completely taken over, even the light of the stars can only reach so far. And that's all he says as he sits down and continues.
At this point, the night has grown. Everybody, with the exception of the elves that are on watch, has gone to sleep. Feanor has come back with his basically training buddy, and everyone's kind of getting ready as you kind of sit back on the path with Corinthial. But you can hear in the distance, the two of you, a soft cry. And you can see rolling on the ground, kind of cuddled up next to his father, Belgo, seems to be weeping softly. He sits up and he begins to rub his eyes. You could tell trying everything in his power to hold back any verbal cries and tears. Corinthial, she stands up and she walks over. She looks at you, kind of beckoning you forward, Valinith, but the two of you make your way over there. Feanor, you do see this. Do you wish to do anything? Theodric, I'm going to have you make a perception check for me. You're fast asleep.
Yeah, Feanor would definitely. Yeah, if he was the instant he hears anything wrong with Belgo, he would be.
Okay.
I only got a 10.
Okay. You are sleeping through this essentially, Theodric.
Damn it.
You make your way over to Belgo, and Caranthiel basically sits down beside him and kneels and says, "Oh, there, Belgo. It's okay. Do tell me what's the matter." And her soothing voice, he kind of looks up, and you can see that there's like a waterfall of tears just like streaming from his eyes. And he sees that actually this happens just as Feanor arrives as well. And Belgo goes on. "I can't sleep. I haven't been able to sleep for days. I can't stand it. It's just every night, nightmares. I see dark creatures all around me. I see my mom. I see Jalen." And he like takes like a deep sigh as tears just begin to fall.
I see dead people.
And Valinor,
No!
and he says, "Oh, why do you have these tears, Belgo? Didn't you tell me before?" And he gestures to the necklace.
Which is no longer on his neck.
Well,
Oh,
This has been taken
Uh,
from him.
okay, he gestures towards the neck, kind of like this. "Didn't I tell you? Those who you love are always with you. That's part of the elven magic. Isn't that right?" Not
I-
knowing if anyone else knows what he's talking about, but that's his conversation that he had with Belgo.
I know Valinith, but I see them and I feel them. But it hurts. I want to see them. I feel guilty for seeing them. I feel guilty that I lived and Jalen didn't. I should have been the one in that hole.
Come now, young Belgo. Jalen would have wanted nothing more than for you to live a long, wonderful life. You know her, right, Feanor? Jalen's one of the most giving people that we could have ever met and had been lucky to met. And she would have wanted this for you.
with like a pointed look, Fana looks at me and says, "She gave. She was willing to."
Gave indeed, but her impact and her actions will live on, just like those of your mother. So I like to use the present tense, because I like to think that she's still giving, even up until this point, even though she's no longer physically here with us. Just like your mother's been doing for you this entire time. That's love that you feel for these people, Belgo. That's a key ingredient in elven magic, after all.
You can see as you look at him, just absolute exhaustion has riddled his face and his body. He hasn't been able to sleep. He hasn't been able to do much, and he's been worked half to death during these travels. And as a medical just examination of him, like, this boy needs sleep. That's what he needs.
Belgo, why don't you lie down? I will sing you a song. And I will stay here with you for as long as I can, keeping watch. And if any of the bad dreams come back, I'll be here to fight them off.
There's no better person to fight him off than this guy, trust me.
Caranthiel actually, too, that she kind of gives like a soft chuckle, like, and then she like takes a look at Fedor and like immediately like her eyes like cast down a little bit. Valinith, make a perception check.
18.
18. As she does so, you can see that she is actively trying to hide her hand.
Valinith knows. Why come now, Corinthial? It seems like the young boy just needs some sleep, can't you see? I think it's time to sleep, my friend. Or at least what us elves do.
If you don't mind, Valinith, I'd like to stay back here for a moment.
With Belgo, I'm assuming.
Yeah, with Belgo.
Oh, why, of course. Theodric, let's give him some space. Let's give him some space.
Theodric's asleep.
Sorry, not Theodric. Feanor, let's give him some space.
No, Feanor's singing the song.
Yeah. I'm gonna sing a song for him.
Valinus says to himself, I'll give them some space.
No, you look around like, we should... Oh.
He goes, and actually, Valinith walks over to where Theodric is, and he'll just kind of sit there, and he'll like twiddle his thumbs, and he'll go into his elvish dreams, and just kind of stay by, kind of still keeping the two of those lovebirds in his sights, but also just kind of like, you know, just being a presence, hopefully comforting.
You're just lurking.
Yeah, just lurking.
He's just sitting there, like, kind of like...
He's exhausted.
Watered down, just like staring at them, like, this is a tender moment.
Exactly. And Valinith knows. Oh, he knows. Trust me.
Feanor, is there a specific song you'd like to sing, or would you like this just to be a check?
There's a specific song. There is a Sindarin and a common version. The version I'm singing to Belgo is the Sindarin version.
See if his training has helped.
Yeah. But it goes... turn off my little background Shire music, or else that's going to mess me up. But he is going to say... Ti iramu nale omanye, batuvu orishu nalenya oreni, uluva nailurovia, endu holain, nailurovia elekuli. And he's going to continue to speak, and the translation is, through the night may my voice reach you, over the wind may my heart fly to you. May you sleep, eyes closed, may you sleep, stars luminous. Rest your head over my lap, or your dreams will be a reality. Step through a door to another realm, slowly walk to the silver light. May you sleep, eyes closed, may you sleep, stars luminous. Rest your head over my lap, dreams will be.
While this is happening and you sing...
It's a song his mother sung to him when he was little.
That's beautiful. While you sing this, Corinthial, she kind of scoots her way like a little bit closer to you, and she holds out a hand in front of her as a small flame begins to flicker in her hand, and you, as you sing, you see this light flicker before Belgo's eyes. It dances and it grows slightly larger, and these words are enchanting, and they only seem to fuel this fire within her palm. Belgo's eyes fixate on the fire, and you begin to see his eyes begin to slightly close and nod and nod, and finally he falls asleep. And for about another minute or two, the elf lights begin to dance in her hand. As Feanor, you conclude your song, the elf light extinguishes. She kind of leans back and looks to you. It's been so long since I've heard that song.
I would say that I got better at singing over time, but I think I spent much too much time drinking dwarven mead and ruined my voice a bit. But no, it's something that gives me comfort when I drift off into the elf dreams. Some nights it's harder than others, but it's one of those pure memories, one of those ones that I found hasn't been corrupted over the years. It hasn't been tainted by my own experiences, good or bad. Something that I'll carry with me.
It must be nice carrying a piece of home with you everywhere you go. Here,
It's about the only thing of home that, and he like runs a hand through his hair. The only thing of home that I've really kept in all these years.
she kind of chuckles to herself and says, "Do you ever miss it? Miss home? We grew up together, Feanor. My parents both died at a young age, and it was your parents that practically raised me. You've always been a brother to me, Feanor. You're the family that I've been desperately trying to reach."
I don't know what comes of the future, and you know that I'm not one to lie or to pretty words up.
Isn't that the truth?
And he's gonna reach out and he's gonna like grab her around like the shoulder and like pull her close. I'm not going anywhere. For now, at the very least, we're together again. And to all our merry adventures and all our wild, wacky hijinks, all the way until we make it to the Greylands, Grey Havens. And then he's gonna like say to her, "It's like, would you like to hear one of the stories from my time out beyond in the past 5 years?"
I would love nothing more.
Okay. Now, okay. And as like a camera's like slowly panning back, it's like, so I started a fight club in Lake Town. And it's like, oh yeah, and then there was just people flying. I actually threw Valineth into a river, and it's like going out, and basically he's going to spend the night just talking to her on things that he's done on his journeys, and like the happy and sad and the tense and relaxing, you know, his time with the woodman, stuff like that. Like, he's not going to tell like every single detail, but he's going to be like spinning a story for her. He's telling her the stuff that he's gone through, and more wanting to more really comfort her, to let her know it's like, I don't know what's in our future, but for now we're here, and for now we're gonna be. I'm not leaving. Like I'm gonna be.
And this brings actually a lot of comfort to her. And at this point, this is a turning point to where she's going to start approaching you more regularly and talking to you upon the journeys. There's no longer the kind of weird wall between you. Days pass. You continue your long trek. Again, this forced march pace is exhausting. So much so where, and actually because of that elf sleep, Belgo loses a point of exhaustion, so that's fun. But with you guys continuing to push forward, you continuously begin to notice that the Mirkwood seems less dense. It seems not quite as impressive the further west that you make. You can tell at this point that you are beyond the central, basically heart of Mirkwood, and you are on the downhill slope to leave. Theodric, as you continuously ride, you begin to hear a number of things, specifically rumors of discontent amongst some of the elves. It's not quite as widespread as maybe you would hope, but definitely Taladir seems to be growing more and more frustrated. But you have noticed that ever since Calathir and his kind of warning to Taladir, he has not mentioned anything verbally, but you can see that physically he is disgruntled. The caravan, as it were, it continues to move forward, and you've become familiar with the horses. Specifically, you've actually very much specifically become fond of the black one, which is named Bramble.
Bramble.
Yeah, Bramble.
Didn't even have to check.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. But you've very much grown fond of him. He is a goofy horse or pony, And even in such despair, like, you can always look at him and he gives you kind of like this like ray of sunshine. The same with Baradarok. Baradarok, it seems like whatever was ailing him, whatever was distressing him early on, has all but dissipated. And sitting up, actually, finally, in the cart with you is Rufus. He has taken quite a liking to you as you've been taking care of the animals, Theodric. And he has looked to you as the primary giver of treats these days. He still has his moments at night where he howls into the dark, but he has become very cozy with you as you often find him sitting beside you in the wagon. Just kind of panting as at the road ahead. And it isn't long, probably another 3 or 4 days that pass, that you noticed something out just beyond up ahead, the tree line. I'm going to have you make a investigation check for me.
Just in the background, like while he's doing that, every morning, can Fainor still be doing his training every morning? Like, still trying to train. Why have I just forgotten the dog's name?
Rufus.
Rufus. I was like, yeah, go on. I want to keep trying to teach Rufus tricks when he has energy.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to figure out why I'm -1. It's because I've been exhausted. That is a 6 on my investigation check.
Okay, cool. And so with that 6, you kind of shake it off as the caravan goes closer and closer. Maybe it's just the exhaustion that you're feeling, but you're finding it hard to keep focus and to drift away from boredom. But as you continue on to the place, you look closer into the forest and you can not see, but clearly hear some kind of a struggle just going off to the right.
Is the elf who's leading us, has he reacted to this at all?
No, he has not. He just continues to keep marching.
I'm gonna call out to him. Do you hear that, Sir Elf?
He listens for a moment. Sounds like elves doing their work. But perhaps that's a little bit closer to the path than I'd like to admit. Halt! And he basically calls you to stop the ponies.
Okay. And I stop the ponies in the wagon.
Mm-hmm. And he takes a moment. You. And he calls over to Fainor. Go check to see what's happening. And you can hear that there's like a physical scrap that is going on. It's clearly like 2 men grunting, as if like wrestling of some kind. Oh, can't hear you.
Are there any weapons or anything that'll like immediately like even in the cart or something? It's like, would I be able to grab my spear?
Here. And he throws a dagger down on the ground in front of you. I take it you're understand how to use this.
Yep. I lean down and I pick it up.
Okay.
Yep. And yeah, I'm gonna go into the underbrush.
So you do, and just within...
Can I try and approach stealthily to whatever's happening?
Make a stealth check.
While...
17.
Oh, that's good.
Theodric, what was that?
I was going to say, while this is happening, can Theodric glance in the back of the wagon to see if he spots anything he could use as a weapon in a pinch if he needed to?
Make a perception check. Fainor, you do very sneakily. You kind of just like vanish into the bushes completely as you peer through, and literally feet within the boughs of these trees, you can see what looks to be Maeglin headlocking a relatively elderly, worn-looking gentleman. And you can hear that all of the grunts are coming from this individual as Maeglin just like has him pinned to the ground. And you can see that just beyond too, there is this enormous tree that rises up to the sky, and it looks to be hollowed out as if this person has been living there. And there are a couple of elves that are currently in there sacking the place, searching for anything, and they come with essentially like an armful, both of them, full of just random goods, scraps, whatever that they can find, as they kind of make their way actually back onto the elf path and release it, not seeing you. But you see that Magellan kind of chuckling. Ah, there, old man. Tell me, what is one such as yourself doing out here along the elf path? It seems that we haven't crossed paths ever. You're a surprise to me. And the old man, he's a...
No, let me go. I swear, I don't have anything. I don't know anything. Just let me go. Leave me in peace.
And Magellan just like chuckles to himself as he basically just like picks the dude up in complete headlock and throws him out onto the elf path, again, not noticing you at all, Feanor. As he does so, this man stumbles, and he looks like he is wearing rags, like he has been on the road for years at this point. Can I actually
attempt to catch the man as he gets like thrown, like just step from the shadows and like grab a hold of him?
Yeah, make an acrobatics check for me. Theodric, what was your
20.
roll?
I got a 17.
Immediately in the back, there are a number of kind of pretty common-looking swords and clubs and weapons that you could probably easily go back and grab and be able to use in a pinch, just for your information. Feanor, you do catch him, and you catch him by the arm, and he stumbles onto the path instead of falls flat. As you emerge from the bushes, Magellan says, "Ah, you're all too kind for our guest. Now tell me, do you have a name?" And the man,
I am still going to be holding on to his arm.
Okay.
But like, it's like, making it clear that he's not going to be a threat, so that they don't hurt him more than they have to.
He's struggling as if trying to break away, but you notice that his strength isn't much, and so you easily keep hold of him as he goes.
Don't need a name. There's only me. I know who I am. I'm me. You need name though. You're not me. Had a name once, but they took it.
As he begins just like freaking out, kind of almost having like this paranoid panic attack. At this point, everybody is alerted to whatever's going on here.
I look at Magellan Feanor looks at Magellan and goes, "We really want to be taking this with us?"
He looks up and down. No named gentleman, if I can call you such things. You are a pathetic excuse for a man. But surely, you have some gall to you. Looks like you've survived out here for quite some time, something that even the most skilled elf can't do. Why are you here? And he kind of like side glances you, Feanor, as if like asking for any kind of like assistance.
Speak true. He's fair. He just wants to know. And if you answer truthfully, he can evaluate and let you on your way. He's just trying to make sure you are no threat.
Make a persuasion check for me.
Natural 20, but that gets turned into a 19. It's my -1.
Oh.
What's that? What's that you got?
And he sees that essentially in your hand, there seems to be, you have hidden a small piece of food, perhaps for some purpose for later.
What is that?
And he takes like a big sniff. And you hear his stomach just grumbling. And Magellan laughs. Give it to the man.
Yeah, Feanor does. And it's like, as he's about to, he's like, if I give this to you, now let go of your arm. Please stand here and have a conversation with us.
Conversation. Food in my belly. But you let me go after I speak. Yes, I go back to living.
That's up to our Lord Magellan. And I gesture to him, and I let go of the man's arm after I give him the food.
That remains to be seen. Speak. And he looks at it. Basically, his hands are crossed behind his back. A very familiar stance that you've seen him.
I remember darkness. A green light. The necromancer. I escaped days ago. Months. No, years. They seek me. The dark dungeons. His face. A face of shadow.
And he just begins gobbling the food up.
Please, I know nothing. Let me be. Let me go free.
Theodric, make a perception check for me.
I muted myself. That's an 18.
18. Strangely, this man looks familiar to you. You have no idea where you could have possibly seen him. And then you ponder. You've never seen this man.
Can
In
I?
person.
Yeah. He's from my dream, right? Like, he's the crazy man who was in the cart with me in my dream.
He looks exactly down to the very outfit to be this man.
Nice. Theodric is just kind of stunned and uneasy. He's feeling very uncomfy right now.
I told you what I told you. That's all that I know. That's all the information that I know.
Maeglin, he steps forward, towering over this man, and says, "You don't seem like the brightest of your kind. You say you don't know much, but you've seen a shadow. Tell me, think hard for me. What was the shadow? Describe it in as much detail as possible." Something about this has completely intrigued Maeglin.
I told you. A growing light. Green. A tower.
Names. I'm talking about names. And he's gripped the throat of this man, all but almost lifting him up.
I don't think he'll be able to talk hanging off the ground like that.
He takes one look, and he drops the man, and he falls flat on his butt. Who was your captor? You mentioned a necromancer. From my memory, necromancers haven't existed for millennia. What do you mean by this?
Orcs. Filthy orcs all around. Beating me. Torturing me. Spitting on me. I starved. I starved in the dungeons. Life in Mirkwood. Life in the woods much better than those dungeons. Darkness. Darkness. Consuming darkness.
And fed up from this, Maeglin stands up and says, "Put shackles on the man. I'll get my answers one way or another." And immediately, one of the elves who had pretty much pillaged the place, the hollowed out tree that he was staying, he takes the similar shackles, probably some of the same shackles that were on one of you at one point, and places on the man, and he screams,
No! No! Leave me be! Leave me be!
as they basically carry him and plop him into the back of the cart. Maeglin takes one look at you and kind of chuckles, Feanor. This one will be waking up all of Mirkwood, don't you think? We best be ready. And he takes his bow and he picks up and he jumps back into the trees. And you hear a call from behind the bushes, very muted actually, but you can tell he's calling quite loudly. Carry on now. All of his items become placed in the cart. Theodric, because you are in the cart, make an investigation check as item after item of his belongings get placed back with him.
Gosh, I'm trying to figure out if I should bother with inspiration. I'm gonna save it for later. I got a 5.
5. Yeah, honestly, the things that are placed in this trunk, like, you have no idea why the elves have taken it. It just looks like rags, like very messed up, like animal skins, like bones that still have like meat. You can just tell that they quickly went through and cleared it of everything. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of interest here to be able to look at. And so you continue onwards, forward down the path.
I will take the knife that I was given, like flick it, catch it by the blade, and hand it back to the elf. Like, thanks for that one. I didn't know what I was running into, and something's better than nothing.
He kind of chuckles and says, it seems like you've become much better than what we originally intended. Keep this up. I believe Lord Maeglin has taken a liking to you. And the elf basically sheaths the dagger as you continue to keep moving forward. All the while, this dude just screaming from the back. He's in a bad place. Hours pass, still screaming. By the time you all stop for your evening break, he has calmed down a bit, but you can he's still jerking violently in the back of the car. And you can hear say,
Darkness! Consuming darkness!
as he kind of just like shrieks to himself like over and over again. He seems honestly oblivious and unaware to any presence of people that are around him. He just seems paranoid as heck as you continue. But you do stop for camp, and days pass, and this becomes a regular occurrence. He doesn't seem to be losing his muster. About 16 days into your travel, you are at the point where you start to notice that the air itself has become less heavy and lighter. The further west you make it, the more it seems like, and that not 16 days pass from this moment, just total since you've been captured. 16 days total have passed. And this forced march is beginning to take its toll. I'm going to have each of you make Constitution saving throws for me.
Natural 20 for 24. I did have to use my inspiration for that one, though. So it would have been an 8.
I got a 14.
Then 19 for Valnith.
All of you withstand gaining a point of exhaustion as you continue onward. But man, is this man really starting to get on your nerves. You've made efforts to try to speak with him, and he just kicks at you violently and pushes you away, wanting nothing to do with what you're saying, anything. He's proven himself to where he needs to be kept under basically lock and key, thrown in the back. He gets fed, which he eats gratefully, but other than that, he will basically just keep screaming.
Can I be the one that's feeding him?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but like when it comes to feeding him and stuff, Feanor's the one who's going to bring him his water and stuff, and he's just going to have like small little conversations with him, giving him bits of food, stuff like that. Just trying to be like show that there is like at the very least like a softer hand here.
And as you do so, you notice that this man. And I know this is not like what we all like to hear, but like this man has devolved into more of an animal than a person. It's a truly a sad sight. You can tell that this individual has become so used to being alone, so crippled by fear, that he is driven simply by instinct alone. He doesn't seem to have any anything deeper beyond his eyes. Although the one thing that you do notice as you do this and continue to feed him and treat him like humanity, one thing that you do see is he holds your gaze for much longer than his darting eyes all around. And you see glimmers of humanity left within him.
Can Valnus sense shadow if he sees this?
Make a Shadow Lore check. Or, yeah, Shadow Lore.
He's going to use his inspiration that he got from Vith in the chat, so... Which is better. That's a 12.
12. He seems completely consumed by it. He's a remnant of light, essentially.
All right, Valnus takes note.
He's a broken man.
And he actually turns to Corinthial and points to the man, and he says, "Do you sense it, Corinthial?" And he points towards the man. That is the extent of shadow, my friend.
I don't sense anything, but I've never seen anything quite like it. I try to treat his wounds, but he only acts violently towards me.
Yeah, former shell of a man, he is. It's a pity. But I hope he can find his solace, even if it's not in this world. It seems like he's seen a lot. Maybe we should try to get information from him, if we can get it.
Good luck with that. Have you seen... He just rambles nonsense.
Well, and then Valneth points to Feanor, who's over there, like feeding him and giving him water and really trying to take care of him, and says, "Well, if anyone can do it, I put my faith in Feanor."
What you hear when you hear, "So if you are me and I am you, then where does that put us?"
A reminder to everyone that last time the party had to deal with a crazy old guy, Jalen had to do that, so...
True.
Good luck.
Sorry. So that guy that Jalen had isn't nearly as far gone as this guy. It's the same voice. I'm sorry. It's my crazy old man voice.
Even without me. So yep, have fun with that.
Yeah, exactly. He's bewildered all the time. But Feanor, about another day or two passes, and he's calmed down actually a decent amount. And you actually recognize this part of the elf path where you are. At the pace that you are going, you're about 6 days out from leaving Mirkwood. About. You make your way into the forest. On your irregular hunts, Nornir has all but trusted you completely. He has gifted you with everything that you need for the hunt. Not just a bow and a handful of arrows, but he's allowed you a spear. He's allowed you swords. He's allowed you daggers. He's allowed you everything that you possibly could need.
In this time that I've been going out with Nornir, can I have been showing him stuff that, like, as a woodwright, you would be able to do? It's like, oh, these are the kind of trees, and this is the kind of stuff that you would use. If you find stuff like this, you can turn that into a bow. Showing him how to, like, make string to, like, harden the fire, like wood... fire harden bows and arrows and stuff like that. Just like showing him skills as well as the training that he's providing with him.
And with this, he is actually thoroughly impressed, as his initial impressions, with maybe the exception of that one shot that you made against that deer, his initial impressions were you've got lots of promise, but you have a lot of work. But now that the fact that you've started to take on kind of a role of teacher to him, over the days, you've actually grown relatively close to him. So much so that he no longer just speaks in short phrases, but you actually, on your journeys, have long, drawn-out conversations with him. Still yet to reveal his face completely in its entirety to you. I'm going to have you make a charisma saving throw.
Uh, 10.
He's gotten to the point where you can tell Nornir trusts you. Whether Maeglin trusts you completely or not, that's a different story, but Nornir has gotten to the point where he's thought of you as a comrade in arms. You two hunt together. Your movements seem completely in sync. He even begins to share his own insights, his own thoughts about the current situation. And one of the things that seems strange is the way that Nornir talks about Maeglin. It's less about respect and more out of fear. Some of the things that you learn. In Nornir's mind, Maeglin's desire to prove himself as superior to all those that are around him have clouded his original ambitions and his goals. And his dreams of overthrowing Thranduil, based off of everything he told you, this is something that he fears could easily be used against him. So this is a point of contention. This new kind of facade. You finally have learned that the way that Maeglin is now isn't how these elves remember him as. And the change seems quick and the change seems rapid. He has these ambitions and he has this hate that's deep within him. And as one of Maeglin's close advisors, one of the things that he actually lets slip to you is the fact that there's the potential that Maeglin doesn't actually have the kingdom of men under his control. There's an importance about this caravan. And one thing that he mentions, as you continue to hunt and you continue to gather weapons and you make weapons together, gather leathers and all of the necessary means, and you continue to fill this caravan up, you can't help but feel that these are more like offerings to this king, potentially in hopes that that's going to win over the loyalty of the Northmen to march against. Everything you've heard from Maeglin so far, it sounds like he already has their control. But it seems like this caravan, the caravan of Baldor's goods and everything that they've collected thus far, is the key to allowing that dream to become a reality.
Having talked with him, like, if I know he's going to say to Nornie, it's like, I don't really see what the importance of a cart with some. Is the kingdoms in the north in such disrepair that what meager rations and supplies that we've been up together will really be that big of a contribution?
We've met them once, about 8 months ago. The men of the north, they're led by a king, a brute of a man. The years of battle-hardened vigor that was within him, that rests upon his shoulders, symbolize him as a true leader amongst his people. And I could see that right away. Nobody dare stand against him. But because of this, Their army grows by the day. The people of the north they've been scavengers for some time. And as they make their way deeper and deeper into Mirkwood, killing off the game, the natural balance of things, they destroy all. I do believe that a caravan such as this, of everything that we've collected, would go a long way. Maybe not to the king bowing, but seeing that his and Maeglin's, while their intentions align, they both seek power. And King Thranduil stands in the way of both of their power.
Noni, in the time that I've known you, I feel like I've gotten to have a better understanding on everything about the Wayward Elves.
Have you?
I do think that you genuinely care about the Mirkwood, about the Greenwood. And I do believe that you want to do what's right by it and keep it safe. Is it really worth leading an entire army of men through a vast portion of it, destroying what they touch, destroying what little may be left of our beautiful wood, to then overthrow Thranduil and have a host of men now in the heart of the halls? Are we truly enough in number to fight them off, let's say, should the moment our interests aren't aligned? Yes. I feel like, with just how you've described them, it's putting an entire kingdom of scavengers in a place that requires such a delicate balance. It'll spill beyond the Mirkwood. Even if Maeglin has control of the Mirkwood, it'll spill beyond and they'll kill everyone in Dale and all the other cities of men. They'll spread out, establish themselves as a dominant force. How will Maeglin be able to control them at that point? Let's say they take Dale. Yes, we elves are superior in physical characteristics and wisdom because of our years, but is it worth the cost of destroying this Middle Earth to rule a small part of it?
I
Because
often think that to myself
with
as
any
well.
yes.
I do understand where Maeglin is coming from when it comes to perhaps recruiting these. We've been together for 3 years and we've gained about 30 followers. That's a strong elven force, especially within the trees. Ruithil hunts us relentlessly, and that number often fluctuates. These men, they are scavengers, but they're warriors. They're strong, and as you say, they destroy what they touch, but in Maeglin's eyes, as long as we outlive them, that's all that matters. Yes, they might destroy the Mirkwood, but they will eventually die. And with that, well, as we continue to live, the wood will continue to grow again. The despoiling of our beloved home, at least in the eyes of Maeglin, is but a small price to pay, I think. But every day that passes, every inch that we draw closer to, well, seeing his dream become a reality, the more apprehension I have. Something doesn't seem right. Something doesn't seem natural.
I have gotten the feeling from speaking to you and others back at camp that you've said that Maeglin isn't as he was. Even Caranthiel mentioned that when when she first met him, he was a much different man, searching more for a new place for the elves to live, a new kingdom, somewhere where they can be away from the threat of Thranduil. But he seems to have changed. Is there anything that's happened recently? A loss of a loved one? The death of a close friend? Something momentous that would have changed him, changed his outlook on things.
The only
I was told that my companions and I were the first to be kept instead of sent on our way.
The only thing that I can think of, and perhaps you've noticed it, a shadow grows in Mirkwood. This is not the familiar place that we used to know. And it whispers things. In the night, as we dream. Hidden from the stars, which us elves of Mirkwood, we look towards with guidance. But there's a dark foreboding that I sense. Pervades these forests. Every day, more and more spiders crawl up from the mountains of Mirkwood, seeking to engulf our northern kingdoms. Our goal is to rid Mirkwood of these horrible creatures. But more and more than a band of 30 elves, even more than the hunters of Thranduil's halls can... There's a darkness.
Maybe it's something else that, for it, the destruction of Mirkwood isn't too much of a price to pay, much like Megalith. What is your thought if something were to happen to Megalith? If Megalith were to leave, or Megalith was seen to be insane of some kind, what does being part of the Wayward Elves mean to you? If there was no leadership, if you were on your own, what would you want to accomplish?
What every one of us joined the Wayward Elves for. Freedom from rule. It means something different to all of us, I know, but we've all turned from Thranduil's halls for one way or another, either by banishment or disdain for the things he stands for. Not everyone believes like Maeglin. I don't believe your companions to be lesser. If anything, this army of men in the north proves that to be the opposite. Maeglin believes if he can have them under his thumb, he can do anything, but what's to stop them from turning on him?
Also turning into the very thing that he's trying to fight against. What did he call it? He's interacting with the humans, making deals with them, trading with them. Isn't that exactly what he was against Thranduil for? Like, as much as I am not the biggest fan of King Thranduil, but I don't know. Sometimes it just feels like the things Maeglin says and the things that he does don't line up very well. I've heard of, like, some talk in the camps of people aren't really content. And yes, we are soldiers. Being completely happy or comfortable isn't always an option, but people aren't seeing the vision that they joined the Wayward Elves for in sight anymore. It's like we've turned down a dark road off the Elf path into the Southern Wood, and we're just going deeper and deeper.
I feel that is much to be the case. Lord Maeglin, his mind is clouded. I don't think it's just the woods. I don't think it's just the whispers. There's a hate.
I hope then.
A hate that has been stirred. I do think that the growing and looming shadow has perhaps helped him dive deeper into that. But there is a despair. Lord Maeglin, before he made his journey to the Wayward Elves, he was serving as one of the commanders of King Thranduil's guard. And there was an elf woman who captivated his heart. In the Battle of the Five Armies, King Thranduil marched the elves down to Erebor to seek gemstones that are of his heritage, gemstones that are his. And ultimately, war broke out. Goblins and orcs from every direction. It was a slaughter. Those that survived, Maeglin being one of them, returned to Thranduil's halls changed. Yes, the shadow was defeated for a time. But in Maeglin's heart, he died there that day with his beloved. I do believe that his time out here in the wood, his freedom that he seeks, was an escape from that.
He was running from something, not toward something. And Feanor thinks back to when he told Belgo that specific thing. Don't run from something. Always be moving towards something, or else it'll chase you.
Maeglin, he was a young not young, but he was a charismatic leader when we first started. We see less and less of him these days. We receive more orders from him. But not a single one of us would dare stand against him. We know what he can do in combat. We understand the depths of his skill with a blade.
Should that be all that commands someone? You know,
In an army of 30 elves, there are those that still remain loyal to him as far as I know. Even if we outnumbered them. It wouldn't serve anyone any good. Death will continue to pervade in this wood. And thus we have reached an impasse of some kind. And all of us are just waiting in hope that Maeglin can reclaim a sense of his former self. He shakes his head.
And Feanor says, I think it is at times like this that my dear friend Valineth would say to not think of what's happening to Maeglin. It's something that he can't recover from. There's always a light in others that can be seen and nurtured. If Maeglin is not the man that you once knew, then it is up to his men and those that are loyal to him still to help him get back on his path. If Maeglin was under the effects of a poison, his men would surely smash away the cup and take him to a healer. If the poison is in his mind, there's only so much a healer may do, but he should still be as willing to help him, to save him, even if they don't agree with what he's doing. He is the leader of the Wayward Elves. If he can be redeemed to his former self and pursue his dream of founding a new capital for Wayward Elves to live in, I feel that is a just way to live. No one should be forced to live under the rule of a king they do not respect and that they do not love. But if Maeglin turns into the very thing that he hates, it'll destroy him even more.
And it will destroy the elves. I will say one thing about King Thranduil, and this does not leave the confines of this conversation. While King Thranduil's ways are harsh at times, he too has a sadness, but he also has a wisdom to overcome it. King Thranduil, he's a good leader. The only reason I don't serve under him anymore is, well, during the Battle of the Five Armies, I ran. My lack of courage, my lack of bravery found me no place amongst the elves of home, and partially due to shame, but also due to my banishment. I was sent here into the woods. Fortunately for me, I have a skill set that allows me to survive with relative ease here. But it is companionship. It's my brethren that I do wish. I do hope someday I can be reunited. And I do hope, against all odds, this is terrible of me to say, but if we do march against Thranduil's halls, is it bad of me to say that I hope we fail? Maybe that's just what Maeglin needs.
I don't think that it is. That it's bad to say. If a ruler is surrounded by only people that foolhardily believe in everything they say, then it's doomed to fail. I don't know about Maeglin's chances. Thranduil is born in First Age. He's more than 4,000 years old and commands a large portion of the Mirkwood. But yes, perhaps some failure will allow him to reassess, but cannot know. Maeglin seems like he is a very determined kind of person. Personally, my experiences with him haven't been the greatest, and as you know, I'm not really here entirely free of will. But I can see that the people that are following Maeglin, at least most of them, kind and just, lack a place that they can truly find safety and comfort in. I don't know. It's not something I have any answers for. I am young. So young that many still could probably look at me and think that I'm one of the mortal folk. Especially with the way that I dress and act. But I think that there are noble goals, and then there are goals that once were noble. Very few outside of the shadow pursue something with a darkness in their heart. And I think that if Maeglin lets it take hold, then that will surely be the end of, at the very least, the Mirkwood Elves. Perhaps Rivendell will stand, Ladris, beautiful city. I have never seen it, but perhaps it will remain. Mirkwood will be gone, taken over by men or monsters, and that is not what I want. I want to resist that shadow.
Feanor, your words ring true to me. I've been thinking the same thing for some time now. I just wish there was a way to turn my old friend toward the light. Vaynor, make a perception check for me.
Okay. 7.
You continue to speak as you look at him, somewhat disbelief. The fact that Nornir still has hope for someone who's shown nothing but brutality and wickedness. The man who killed your friend. You shake with anger, but you can see that there's a deep-set worry within his eyes. You can't tell any other expressions from his concealed face. But your attention is drawn away as you begin to hear
Who's there? Who's there?
and you turn and you see a dwarf wandering out of the bush. He collapses to his knees and he reaches up towards you.
You have to help me. Please.
Fëanor's immediately like going to help him.
You kneel down next to this individual and you see that he is battered beyond belief. He's got gashes in him. You can see that parts of his beard look like they have been chopped off by blades, and he's got twigs and stuff all at this area as if he's been traveling through the underbrush for quite some time. And he looks up to you and he reaches.
Fëanor.
You immediately recognize this as the face of Bori. And that's where we're going to end our session tonight.
I'm sorry, what?
By the way,
No.
for sure next session you're coming in.
Don't even worry about it. Like, okay, quite honestly, I can wait until after the orcs have been and gone and cleared everything out. Like, I'm
What
good.
are you
Just
saying?
wait.
We need your help with these
No,
orcs.
no, you don't. No,
Well, I'll just hit you guys. I'll be off hunting somewhere.
you really need Tad help. No, you got this. You'll be fine.
Let's just
You're-
slowly corrupt Maeglin's forces against him.
At the very least, Tad would be a distraction.
Exactly. Like,
Tra-la-la.
He's like the super.
Sorry,
weak Pokemon
not a
that you have in
dwarf
your
coming
team
out of the
to take a hit.
bush, but just
it's just Tad.
Tad from the Breland, just prancing through, much like Tom Bombadil.
He exists on vibes.
Tad has the One Ring. And all it does is he's like, I'm fabulous, and he just looks like even cooler. Like he's not actually.
There's just a
stronger,
constant breeze that blows through his hair.
but got like a light behind him.
Oh my god. Oh man.
I am
There's,
the
Tad's
Reaper.
the shadow. Maybe
This
Tad
one-
became the necromancer.
there was this one character in Nimona that reminded me of Tad, and his name was Todd.
There you go.
Oh,
See, there's something about the T and the D.
Something
There's
the
something
name.
about it.
The three letters and then a T and a D. It's got to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, thoughts about tonight's session. We'll start with Fëanor, and then we'll make our way
Sure.
towards Valinith.
I think it was pretty interesting. I like that it's like, you know, we kind of split up, and like as much as we're all getting a chance to interact with each other, there were some moments where it's like the song that I was singing is actually called the Elven Lullaby.
Aww.
And so yeah, I thought that was nice, and the fact that singing it in Sindarin, because it's like he doesn't want Belgo to think of the words, and like as much as he's not like the most caring, like not the most caring person, he just doesn't know how to present that a whole lot. And he's like, you know what, I'll do this thing that brought me comfort, because that's the only way he knows how to provide comfort to someone else, really. But like, especially someone that's not like a brother in arm. If like, you know, he gave Theodric a hug and that was instinctive, but he didn't know how to help more. You know?
For sure.
Elves
And-
do have a talent in that though, so that's great. You're using your skills the best.
And yeah, it's like getting to know these different characters, like, you know, teaching them stuff, and it's like learning more and more. It's like, as much as Feanor's got this thing out for Maglin, he kind of took an approach where if Maglin or anyone like orders him to kill someone, he's not going to unless he's in danger his own life. You know, and even then he's going to try and not kill whoever. And so he's not, as much as he's learning and coming around with all these things, like he's still him. Even if some of them are beginning to trust him more, he's very upfront and like he doesn't really lie a whole lot. He's very direct. You know, he's yeah. I just think it's interesting. This like, you can view it as playing the long con to eventually get back at Maglin, but it is like he's learning about all these other people, and you know, that part of his thing is he likes learning the experiences of others and their skills and stuff. But yeah, he at the very least his mindset at the moment is Maglin must die, but everyone else, like most others, should be given a chance to like move on. But
Yeah, for sure.
I thought it was a good session in general.
Yeah.
Heavy role play.
I was talking a lot. Sometimes I got lost in it.
Yeah.
It happens, I tell you. It's good, but I think it's necessary, especially when, you know, building out characters to be more so than just face value. And I think that's just kind of realistic just in general. Like, for example, you had like the bandits, even like the small interactions that you had with, what was it, Jonar Kelmund and Finnar. It really built them up to become like these very villainous figures, where from the get-go, Maglin and his band of wayward elves are these very villainous figures. But as you had mentioned, Nick, that just in general, people, like, not everybody necessarily follows what he's doing, but they all are following for one reason or another. And that's one thing, like, you each this session are getting glimpses into the lives of the wayward elves outside of just your initial impressions of Maglin. So it's interesting. But anyways, Leah, tell us about you. What were your thoughts of this session? I'm sorry again. We will get you in this next session.
It's okay. It wasn't the right time, and like I said, I'm not very keen to like come into whatever this situation is about to be.
I was really worried that the crazy old man that you were describing was going to be.
Yeah, like, that was,
I was like,
that was
what?
fine.
He's
That was
actually
fine.
Sauron, so that's.
And then,
Oh god.
and then, like, that part was fine, and then the dwarf came in, and I was like, oh no, this is not good. What else? Oh yeah, one of the things I was actually looking forward to for tonight is just seeing how everyone dealt with like the aftermath of the funeral and everything, and like, oh man, the whole bit with Rufus and Boggo just about broke my heart.
Me too.
It's so sweet. It's so sweet. But it's like, anyway, what else? Yeah, just like a lot of really good chats among the party that I was not privy to, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how what's her name? What's the elf lady's name?
Corinthial.
Corinthial, yeah. It'll be interesting to see like her whole thing. Because like I get it, but you have other options. Like almost. I don't know. I'm tired. It's late.
No, for sure. And one thing that's I think very specific about her is like she has these options available to her, but she just doesn't have the eyes to see them. Like, it's very clear, I think, in talking to Valinith that she has options, but she feels trapped. Like, she feels like she has to stay with the party or like stay with the wayward elves to like keep them alive because they keep getting hurt. And then coincidentally, she feels like she can't return home or do anything like that because she feels like there's a price on her head. Whether there is or not, again, that remains to be seen. But there's like all of this like internal conflict like that's going on with her that's just like really eating her up like on the inside. So yeah,
And
I get
that's something that's very true to life. Like sometimes you can't see how bad of a situation you are in until you take a step back and you get out of it. So if anyone watching is in a bad situation, just like trust your friends, trust your family, and just get out of it, honestly.
Take a step back.
Yeah.
For sure.
From one who knows, okay.
For sure. Well, thank you for your thoughts. That's awesome. Like, it's fun to be able to, even since you weren't there role playing, but like for being a part of this, like I love that. And so, and obviously for being so also supportive in the chat here. Holy smokes! Like, I love it.
What else
It's
am
great.
I here for?
Theodoric, what were your thoughts about tonight? Can't hear you, buddy. Oh, still
quiet. Theodoric had no thoughts.
No thoughts, just rage.
He became a slave.
No, still quiet.
Oh, and gone.
Never mind.
That's okay. We'll skip over him for about a second.
Yeah.
He's returning, but we'll go with Valineth and then end with Theodoric. So.
Yeah. Oh, he may be back.
Oh wait, maybe.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can. Hey.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I had to refresh, I guess.
You're good.
Okay. First of all, I do have a quick question for you, dear Lawmaster.
Yeah.
Are these woodmen that we're going to see of the same variety that Radagast told me to seek out?
Yes. So he specifically told you to seek out the woodmen of Mountain Hall. And so
I'm assuming they're the same race, but it's like a different group.
Yeah. So Woodman Town and Woodman Hall are within the Eaves of Mirkwood, the western Eaves of Mirkwood, and then across Wilderland, so just over the pond, is where. But the one thing is the Woodmen, they are like very interactive. They're always traveling amongst like the different villages and stuff. So being in one locale, the chances of actually like encountering people that are important are
Tiny.
No, they're pretty large actually.
Oh,
is the Woodman Hall the place where I had my session 0?
Yours was Woodman Town.
No, Woodman Town.
Yes.
Yeah,
and so that's just south. That's just south of Woodman Hall. So Woodman Hall is where like the big seat of power is. So the way that it goes, like in those different cultures, like the big ones are Woodman Town, or no, Woodman Hall, where there's like the big like ruler of the Woodmen lives there, and then down like kind of in the middle is Roscabel. And so that actually the person who runs that city is Radagast. And so Radagast in the Woodmen of Roscabel. And then there is the southern one, the most southern, which is Woodman Town. And then all the way across there's Woodman Hall, or Mountain Hall, which is where the
Heartfast King is.
Yep, King Heartfast is. So yeah, they're
Okay.
kind of like a separate thing. There's like a bunch of Woodman locations, but they all kind of have their own rulers, but they're all Woodmen, and they're kind of populating the same areas. So
Sweet, just double checking. As for my thoughts on the session, it was a good session. A lot of just like reflection, a lot of like trying to figure out the lay of the land and kind of the politics of the Wayward Elves. A lot of like I didn't do much, and that's not anything, because that's more of like that is part of the role play, is that right now Theodoric is keeping his head down. He is buckling down as much as it pains his pride to be looked down on as this essentially a beast of burden, or he's doing that for now because he's messed up. He's he's exhausted. He's still badly injured. He's unarmed, and like Belgor and Beldor aren't kind of relying on him and the rest of the party to keep them alive and safe. Theodric's still mulling things over. Is still processing. Um, pretty excited with all of the little reveals and the hints that Theodric's prophetic visions might not be so far away. Little concerning, to be honest. But yeah, having a good time.
Yeah, more to be revealed. Future episodes.
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
it's good. I really love playing along with your kind of like story arc there. It's definitely something that's like above game outside of like the actual written Wilderland adventures. That's like been really kind of fun to just like throw in and connect dots. And
Right.
it's good
Like
stuff.
just the old man and then the dwarven's like, uh-oh.
The Old Man and the Dwarf. It sounds like a book.
Theodric's just like, this is not
It-
great. These are
It's
bad
it sounds
times.
like it sounds like a little bit like the beginning of a Middle Earth joke. Okay, so an old man and a dwarf get kidnapped by elves.
Oh my.
That's true. That sounds like a really good. I look forward to hearing the rest of that joke next
punchline.
session. Yeah, the
He's got to
punchline.
figure one out.
And finally, we have Valineth. What were your thoughts on today?
The first thing I want to say is, Theodric, don't sell yourself short. You are the leader of the Beast of Burden.
Oh,
I only jest. I'm only jest.
Yeah, you take care of the beasts of burden.
No, it was a really good session. I liked how we each had our own individual opportunities to gain trust and learn more about the different parts of it. I'm still just so fanboying over this Corinthial and Feanor love story, and Valineth wants every part of this. So finding out all about this, I don't know if Feanor is even interested in it, but Valineth wants it. Valineth wants it to be a thing. But no, I mean, especially getting to know Corinthial and getting to see the others, I think this is a really good opportunity for Valineth to have to really kind of take a step back and really trust his friends and really see that we are together as a party ultimately, and like we can't do it alone, and we have to. And that includes not just Feanor and Theodric and Valineth, and then Jalen as well, or the new character who's coming in at some point. But
I mean, okay.
Next session.
You can't say that.
well, I'm sure eventually, unless you just somehow like you're there for one
like-
episode, but you'll
Yeah.
find a way to fit in with us. It'll be good. It'll be fine.
Sure.
We're enjoyable people, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just feel it's a little bit dishonest to say that you can't do without someone you haven't even met yet. So like,
That's
Yeah,
sweet.
let's hope we're probably gonna hate them. Let's be honest.
yeah.
If it's Tad,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You're right. Only if it's Tad, though. But
I
it's not
fully-
dishonest. I don't think that's dishonest. I think that's more so a hopeful
mean,
looking forward to
I think
meeting people
you're.
in the future.
I think that you just like playing with me, the player.
I mean that too, but let's face it. I mean, I will say, that's the wonderful thing about the world of Middle Earth and just life in general is you never know who you're going to meet around the next corner. And I mean, inevitably in life, you're going to meet someone in the future who makes a difference and an impact on you. We just happen to be a little bit above game in knowing that person may be coming soon. So
Yeah,
We'll
true.
see. But
You have some divine intervention knowledge.
but what I mean more so than anything is with, especially Corinthial, like really finding out her story and really finding out what makes her tick. Valineth is really, really curious about her, and he's very curious about her lineage as well because she's immaculate, and that can't just be a coincidence. No, sorry. I don't know. I just feel like it's just really exciting. I like learning more about these NPCs and characters, and that's one thing I will say about all of the D&D games that I play with you, Kyle, in particular, but also a lot. The amount of NPC interaction and character growth and the attachment you get to these NPCs, I think is second to none as far as like I've experienced, and that's great because I feel like there's a lot of campaigns out there where NPCs really truly are just a means to progress the story. Whereas in this, I feel like we're really getting attached to so many different ones. It feels like they're main characters in their own right in the stories, which they are. I mean, we're characters in a world. NPCs are very much a part of it, right? But it's great. I love it. I love interacting with the player characters and the NPCs and getting to know more about them.
I genuinely find like the way that Wilderland Adventure is written, specifically with Baldur. He's written in a way where like you could easily as a lore master kind of like paper over him as like a character. It's like, oh, he's very one-dimensional, all this kind of stuff, and then it's just like, well, then why would they follow him into the forest to go save him in the castle of spiders? Like as soon as they like see him caught in a web, they're just like, we're adopting you, Belgo. Like sorry, like I feel
Sounds
like
like maybe we should have done.
yeah.
That was a very real option in my mind. So, like,
Like,
Jalen
he
was
was dead, that's what
100%.
would've happened.
If we couldn't save Baldur, she was 100% like going to grab Belga and be like, "Right, you're coming home with me."
Yeah, but like with the case of like him, like sometimes it's difficult in like written source material to like bring life to a character that's pretty one-dimensional, and so it's fun being able to kind of create with the backstories and everything that they have laid out kind of this world, because just as you guys are playing characters, I'm playing characters too, and these are kind of like I grow attached to them as well, like as NPCs. They're like my player characters, and so it's fun to be able to kind of like interact, good and bad, because again, I have a blast playing Maeglin. He's a terrible person, like elf. He's terrible, but like he's fun to play as a villain, so that's good. And I guess as long
Love the
as you're
voice you
having fun
do
with it.
for him. I was thinking about that today. It's like a very distinct as well. Like you do a lot of distinct voices, but it's like I don't know. It makes him seem like he's a bit smarmy.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
he
totally.
definitely is. For
Smarmy's
sure.
the best word for that. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, he's someone who, I guess with that later, much to be revealed. But I enjoy playing him. He's,
I hope there's
again,
some
terrible character, but he's.
I really
fun to
hope
play.
there's some sweet like back in time vision where Kyle's having to role play 3 characters at once amongst himself, and you get to see like old Maeglin, and then you get to see all the people that he interacted with in Battle of 5 Armies, and Kyle's just playing all these characters at once.
I'll
and I'm
have
sitting
my
there like-
own session 0.
Yeah, exactly. With all these characters, it's good. It's storytelling, and that's one thing that I really do enjoy. Long story short, coming full circle. I mean, being a DM is. I mean, Spider and Nick, you're both DMs, so you know this as well as anyone. Is a DM.
Yeah.
Oh, being a DM is all about that storytelling, and it is about giving life to the creation that you're playing for the characters, for the players that are there, and I appreciate it, Kyle.
That's why I absolutely adore like tabletop role-playing games as a medium of storytelling. Because it's very collaborative, and you know,
100%.
Kyle might have like how he thinks the session is gonna go, but then
It never goes how I expect it to go. I don't think I've played a single session of anything where it's just like, oh yeah, that's what I wanted. That's what was gonna happen. Where it's like maybe I'm like, oh, this is a much better result, or it's just like, I have something to think about. But especially with this campaign, I'm always like, the story is evolving each session, and it gives me just like more ideas to like populate this world with like all kinds of like fun, like things that are unique to this party. And so yeah, it's great. I love it. So
But yeah, I mean, I just go ahead, Nick.
It's
Go ahead.
good. I was gonna say it's like I do love the tabletops for that, especially when I play as a DM. Yeah, it's like I've made this world, and you guys are running around in it, and you're changing things, and they're like, oh, political intrigue. Oh, you assassinated the guy the second you stepped into the city. The entire campaign is now completely different, and just like seeing how much that your players enjoy it and how much you're enjoying, going, throw away all my notes, let's just go for it. Like it's always really fun, and I have a lot of fun in this. It's good to be able to do it as a player, and I can tell sometimes there are moments where I can feel Kyle going, all right then.
No.
Okay,
It's
got
one
a
of
new
those
thing.
things where it's just like, for me, a lot of it is like I have like initial reactions to people. Like I see like, for example, Dain down in the corner, and he's very like reactive to things.
I'm emotive.
And like I feel like that's how I am. So like when someone says something that like piques my interest, I'm like I immediately my first instinct is to like respond as Kyle, and then I have to like think about it. It's like recenter myself into like the character and like respond as the character. And so yeah, sometimes I have to like be like.
And then there's
Just hold it in, bud.
Australian and I are just professional players, and we love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Professional.
Professional. Yeah. Oh, speaking of, I had a thought and then it got derailed. Yeah, like I'm very much new into the whole DMing thing. I have a lot to learn in that arena. But there's this really great clip of Brennan Lee Mulligan talking about one of his old campaigns, and he was just sort of like setting the scene for a story, and like part of the background scene was this wedding that was happening with this dwarven princess, and she wasn't super keen on the wedding. Like the players rolled an inside check or whatever, and she's not super psyched about the wedding, and so the players then decided to like basically kidnap her, like pull her aside and be like, "Are you okay? Like, is this something that you actually want to do?" And she goes, "No, actually, that was a bad situation, and I'm glad you got me out of that." So then, of course, because they've kidnapped a princess, the dwarven army like comes out, and the campaign becomes rescuing the princess, basically. I'll see if I can find that clip.
Crazy. Yeah. No, send that in the Discord. That'd be sweet to be able to
great.
see. For sure. But it is getting late, guys. We're going to go ahead and close this guy down. But first, a couple of things for the week ahead. Dain is streaming tomorrow at 7 p.m. Some more Tears of the Kingdom. And then we don't have any streams for this weekend. But and actually, Monday either. I will not be doing my morning stream. I'm going to be tied up in a prior engagement. But we will be back. I'll be back on Wednesday for Adventures in Middle-earth and all the fun things.
And just a quick clarification as well. In 2 weeks, so the first week of August, it may be a little bit of a light week, partially because that week is the day that I move back, or the week that I move back to America. So in 2 Wednesdays, so not next week, but the Wednesday afterwards, we're not having Adventures in Middle-earth. That is canceled for that specific week. And so take an opportunity to relax and enjoy your time, guys. But I will be moving back. Kyle's going to be visiting
Go to
me
bed
at the
at normal
airport.
time.
Yeah, right. Kyle will be visiting me at the airport, or
potential one shot.
True, but Kyle's not going to be here.
Yeah, Kyle. Yeah, we'll just,
I mean,
we'll just do it. I'll DM.
You literally said that like me and free Feanor is DMs.
Oh, you are professional DMs, right? Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, talk to Kyle about that. If that's something that you want to do. But yeah. But no, as far as Adventures in Middle-earth goes, most likely we're not going to be doing any. Well, I mean, definitely not in this fashion. We're not going to be doing anything. But also myself, I'm not going to be streaming at all that week. So I know Kyle may be doing a little bit of streaming here and there during that week.
Oh, I'll be doing normal streams.
Streams that week.
Well,
but I will not be
Wednesday,
streaming that
one
week.
stream.
So.
Oh man,
yeah,
it'll be a light week.
It's gonna be crazy moving back to the States. It's gonna be nice, but we'll figure it out. Growing pains, they'll come and go. But yeah, it's gonna be kind of like the next couple weeks are gonna be a little weird as far as like stream schedule goes. So stay tuned in the Discord, join the Discord, and for the updates and whatnot. So it's good.
And then also finally, we have a sponsor here, Daisnaki Japanese Treats and Luxury Sweets. They are a wonderful Japanese company here in Tokyo, Japan that. Family-run business that sell delicious Japanese food. You can get their omakase box, their omakase looks box for random Japanese assorted goods, traditional and popular. You could get their kawaii box, which are character random goods, and then their specific boxes, which are Disney, Sanrio, Pokemon, and Nintendo. When you order from them, make sure at checkout to say Fantasy Forge sent you, and that helps us out, and you guys will receive coupons and fun stuff. And also, if you put your Twitch name, you will get tickets towards the next giveaway, or not next giveaway, the subscriber giveaway that they're going to be sponsoring here on Fantasy Forge Studios when that happens. So do that, check them out. But until then, I look forward to next week and seeing hopefully the potential reveal of a new character, and the wonderful to see how you guys maybe attempt to escape the situation that you're in. But until then, may the road go ever onward and onward. Bye, guys.